Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 2019 edition of the 40k Badcast's Adepticast. Campbell, no time for jokes, bud. No time for name jokes. No time for any of that bullshit today, because we got a packed show to talk about what is turning into one of the, if not, well, gosh, man, like, Nova is fantastic. Adepticon is fantastic. Which one do I like more? It's impossible to tell because they're completely different. And I'm so thankful that they're 6 months away from each other.
It is getting harder and harder to tell. I can say that much right now.
Get harder and harder to tell. Okay. Well, Adepticon came and went. Campbell and I were there, and it was, again, a fantastic experience. So we're going to break it down day by day and then come at you at the end with our takeaways. So let's start with Wednesday. And this time on Wednesday, it was great for me because, one, I was going to actually meet Campbell in O'Hare Airport in Chicago instead of just sort of go there by my lonesome like I did last year. And two, it wasn't a fucking blizzard in the Washington, D.C. area that morning when I went to get on a plane. And so instead of uncertainty about will I be able to go to Chicago, it was clear skies and just a little bit breezy.
See, all my uncertainty is whether or not I was going to survive the flight because...
Oh, yeah, you had a rough one, didn't you?
Yeah. If you looked out from the window, you could kind of almost see the wing bending because the flight was so rough over there. And I threw up not once, but twice on the plane. Once when it was in the air and once when it was on the ground, which was extremely cool and extremely good and definitely my highlight of the convention.
Yeah, he gets off the plane. We meet up in O'Hare, and he's like, yeah, I threw up twice.
It's me, the barf boy.
We were all very proud of him. So we landed in O'Hare, and we met up with our ham dad, Carl Tuttle, from the Independent Characters. And
ham dad and friend of the show, Carl Tuttle.
Yes, and our friend Colin, who is also from the Northern California, because it's, the Bay Area. That's Northern California, yeah. He's from the Bay Area, too, and ended up on the same flight, I think, as Carl. And... man, it was great to see Carl coming down the jetway. That guy's one of my favorite dudes.
No, absolutely. He makes you feel at home no matter where you are, honestly.
Yeah.
Even if where that is O'Hare Airport after you've thrown up twice.
So we get in the lift together and we head on over to the Renaissance Schaumburg, which is actually, this was one of the shorter trips to the Renaissance Schaumburg by car. Because usually, in the past at least, it's taken like 30 to 40 minutes, but this one took about 20. However, we almost died on the way over.
We did almost die as like some massive trip. It was a very Final Destination moment, and I'm like, great, I'm going to die. So, well, all right, so here's the thing. For one, there's the most Warhammer podcasters in one car that there's ever been at that point, and it very well could have been the day the music died, but for this incredibly niche part of an incredibly niche hobby, the driver just barely almost got us into an accident and just barely navigated us out of that accident he almost got us into, and we got there in one piece.
Well, it was completely our driver's fault because there was a merge lane that we were getting off of one interstate and onto a different interstate, and there was a merge lane. Our lane was ending, and there was this giant truck that was towing tractors, like farm tractors, that was coming up on our right, and this guy's supposed to get over, but his lane is ending. He's supposed to yield to the traffic that's already in the lane, and he did not, and the truck was like, all right, motherfucker, let's go. So our driver had to get creative at the very end.
There's some ways a bigger fish.
Yeah, and I'm sitting there, I'm just like, all right, this is it.
Yep. Oh, well.
At least I'm doing what I love. Riding in a car in Chicago.
I'm surrounded by hundreds of my tiny loved ones.
All right, so we get to the hotel, we check in, and for me at least, Campbell, the bad decisions started immediately.
Well, and when my body was making decisions for me. So.
You were like, oh, I got to take it easy. I can't start partying just yet. But me, oh, no, sir, Campbell. I said, I will immediately start partying. And did so. But it was so great to see all of our friends. There's so many people that we've come to know through going to these cons and through this hobby. And just getting a chance to be around them and hang out with them was so much fun. We immediately started hanging out with Carl and Doug and Todd from Table War. And people just kept coming to our table and hanging out. I think Kat and Caleb from CK Studios were hanging out with us for a while. Our goon friends showed up and started hanging out. Like it turned into a real fucking get together.
Yes.
And by the end of the night, you had taken it easy and really hadn't fucked around or not.
Well,
but I was pounding like 8% fucking tall boy cans.
Yeah, you were like on your second one. I look at the can, I'm like, damn, this is 8%. And you're like, well, guess I'm off to a good start.
Yeah.
And then I went to the bathroom and threw up for the third time that day. Because that did happen.
Yeah, well, that night was one of the more chill hangs that I've had at Adepticon, and it was very, very lubricated by 8% tall boys.
I mean, well, by the end of the night, I was feeling better. I got to take a nap and all that, and I got to like sit at the bar with an Allagash White, which is, I mean, as close to like orange juice as I was really looking to drink at the moment.
Yeah.
We got to not go to the GW preview event.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute. We were going to go to the GW preview event, but what had happened was the line to get your badge, because it was a badged event, you couldn't go to it without a badge. Yeah. The line was literally as long as the hotel was.
Yeah, it went around the corner.
And I was like, I'm not waiting in this fucking line.
We waited in it for like 10 minutes and moved about 10 feet, and I did not like that time to space ratio. So yeah, we just went back to the bar.
we went and got food. And we were just like, fuck it, we'll get on the GW preview event tomorrow morning when they put it on Warhammer Community. And that's exactly what we did.
I waited 35 minutes. That's all I took.
Yeah, so we're going to cover... Or do you want to cover in depth what they revealed at the GW preview event?
I mean, I could just open a new tab, and our information won't be as out of date if we do that.
Yeah, just hit it with me, baby. Come on, get that tab open.
First off, they showed off Forbidden Power for Age of Sigmar, which has some new endless spells and stuff like that. But the only real takeaway here is there is a ferryman who is a skeleton riding on a boat that's also made of skulls, and that guy fucking rules.
The way you said ferryman made me think not of a ferryman, but a ferryman.
Well, like he's Oberon? No, that's a Wood Elf character. No, this is fucking Grim Reaper made of skulls riding a boat made of skulls. It fucking rules.
Yeah, it's tight.
It's more endless spells and like sort of stuff like that, which you know what I'm down with. Yeah, but we're not here to really cover Age of Sigmar, even though they released some stuff about the butt dwarves coming out.
Are they doing more Fire Slayers?
They're doing a new battle tome for them with like the terrain piece. It's kind of like the snare thing they do for like a refresh, where it's okay, here's your endless spells, here's your terrain piece, here's a rule book with better rules.
I saw they had like a new Fire Drake model.
Yeah, it's one of their endless spells.
Oh, okay. It looks fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
They showed off.
Sorry. We're getting off topic here. Talking about fucking Age of Sigmar.
They showed off Thundrix Profiteers, who are the steampunk dwarves, the Carrion Overlords for Night Vault, and those guys are cool. I feel like they're kind of more like just their regular line infantry than most of the Shadespire Night Vault warbands, but they're cool. But the one bit of Age of Sigmar stuff that interests you, I know, is Warcry, because they got to show off the Iron Golem. Warcry warband.
Curious for Warcry. I don't want to say that I'm interested in Warcry yet. I want to know more about it. Because if it is going to turn into something that is sort of like an arena combat game, then I don't really give a shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but if it's something like Necromunda...
Yeah, if there's like a progressive campaign element to it, then we can fucking talk.
Yeah, but they showed these guys off, and they're kind of like... gladiator-ish, like Realm of Metal, like really fucking cool, tough,
great models,
metal decked out guys. Yeah. They also showed off a new Chaos Fury, which is cool because like the old Chaos Furies I remember them in 3rd edition 40k were some of the worst models out there, and the new one has a neat goatee and a knife, and also a very sharp bird.
Yes, the sharp bird.
I do enjoy me the sharp bird. Now, interestingly for us, since we got events coming up that should be using this, they showed off Apocalypse. And it was very brief. It was, just a little like minute-long teaser trailer that you can see online. But it says it's a new way to play a game in the 41st millennium. Like, it's a new game in the 41st millennium is what it says. It's got movement trays, like clear movement trays. It's got D12s in one of the teaser shots, which is extremely odd.
Interesting.
I am very curious. Like, I am curious if this is the sort of thing that will turn Apocalypse into something that actually plays comfortably. Like, I think the word that was being tossed out was 10,000 points in an evening, which sounds insane to me. It might just be epic ported up to 40k.
That's something I'm extremely curious about, because Apocalypse right now, though I love getting with my friends and hanging out, Apocalypse is a fucking slog, man.
Yeah. It's much like even at Nova where it's run like clockwork. There's a lot to it. It takes all day, and it's just a lot to go through.
Yeah. So if there's anything they can do to fucking speed up that game, I say, give it to me.
Yep, that's my cat. Well, she just did the thing where she like stands up to full extension to rub my hand.
Oh, what a good friend.
Yeah, they showed a trailer for something that's just called 50 Shelves of Grey.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
It's an airbrush. I guarantee it's an airbrush. Okay. And yeah, it's just the 50 Shades trailer, but instead of like right before they bang, instead it's all his Warhammer models on IKEA shelves. I know because they're Billy bookcases. I have the same ones.
It's good when you find representation in the things you love, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the real representation I'm looking for. But yeah, you know what? I think GW doing an airbrush is a cool thing. I think it's going to be probably for people who go to like CK Studios stuff, they're probably going to make whatever. I've already got this taken care of. But for people like you and me who are maybe at most airbrush curious, I think it'll probably be better for just kind of like, this is just a easy way to get into it. But we'll see what they do. They showed off a bit about an event exclusive librarian, and I was just kind of like, why?
Not Primaris.
It's not Primaris, which is really strange to me. Like, I love small marines. I've painted very many of them. But if I were to get this guy, I don't have really an army for him to live in because, I'm not doing him for Black Templars. Yeah. He's a librarian. And
Can't
I'm really
take those.
If it was a Gravis librarian, I'd be like, fuck, yes, I'll be at Adepticon minute 1 so I can get this guy. But
no, I will fight a motherfucker for a Gravis librarian. I will fight like 2 motherfuckers for a Gravis librarian.
I will fight 1 motherfucker with each hand. I mean, it looks like a nice model, but it's why,
I want Gravis troops.
Me too. I want Gravis dad. They mentioned they're doing a community survey around the 15th of April, so we're going to have some time. I love that they're actually soliciting feedback. That's like not the GW I used to know, and I love that. There's a prize of like a new Sisters of Battle army along with some other stuff, but more importantly, I think it's cool that they are soliciting feedback. But I think the really big reveal is Slaanesh Demons coming back in a big way.
Oh, man.
And that Keeper of Secrets is so fucking cool.
I've been not thrilled with the Slaanesh Fiend release. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because to me, it's just the leather daddy horse people. Which, I mean, okay, whatever. If that's your thing, cool. But I didn't think it was that great. Now, I loved the Herald of Slaanesh, who was playing the harp made of,
dude.
A dude, yeah. I thought that was an incredible model and a really gross depiction of what Slaanesh can be. But this Keeper of Secrets, bud, it's so good.
I mean, I'm glad that the highlight of the range is the best model here. Like, it's got that unsettling, inhuman sort of look while still being kind of beautiful. It's got the really high cheekbones and all that stuff, but its eyes are all fucked up. It's very unsettling, and I'm very into it without it being gross. I think that's the important part.
No, that's right. It's not over the top. It's subtle, which for Games Workshop is something that they are not necessarily good or practiced at doing. Subtlety.
For the medium, it's difficult too.
Yeah, but I think they've really pulled off a beautiful model, and I can only imagine how fucking horny people get for Slaanesh in the 40k community, at least, that we're going to see a lot of them on the table.
Yeah, I expect to see a lot of them running their way through my lines very soon.
I expect to see a lot of them getting blasted to death by hell blasters.
That's the more important part.
Fuck yeah.
They also showed off a few characters. They showed off this dude who's all tattooed and has this ribbon dancer on his back, which is kind of weird. But I think the dude himself is actually really cool.
Yeah. Oh, there's the dancing partners. Are a character of them. They have a new mask model, the Herald of Slaanesh, the mask.
Which it looks great. It's one of those units I always kind of forgot existed. But
I got a very Harlequin vibe off of the Slaanesh stuff that they're the new, maybe not the Keeper of Secrets, but they're heralds and crap. I very, very Harlequin-esque, which I like a lot.
Yeah, the Elizabethan collars and the ones presenting the mirror and stuff like that. They're looking fantastic. Again, it's not the army for me, but I am very into the aesthetic. I'm very happy with where it's going.
Yeah, I'm glad they just didn't go full up fucking gimp suits and leather daddies and everything on that. Because that's just so fucking trite for me.
It's overdone. And honestly, for all your dudes in leather. That's what Chaos Barbarians are for, you know? That's what my muscle family's all about.
Muscle bunch.
I need more of that Man of War shit. But yeah, they showed off that, and they showed off endless spells for the Age of Sigmar part of it, which look kind of silly, but, you know, most of them do in my experience.
Yeah.
But
except the corn, not spells, but whatever they're fucking called.
And endless manifestations or whatever.
Judgments. Yeah.
Those are dope as hell.
Those are fucking awesome. The crying skull, it's crying blood and screaming eternally.
Fucking love it. That's about it for like the new stuff they showed on Wednesday.
Didn't they touch on Battle Sisters for a moment?
I don't remember.
That might have been a recent post where
a few days later they posted a picture of Seraphim, which was cool. But
very cool. The barrels weren't drilled, but you know, fucking whatever.
Just amateurs, and you gotta drill the barrels on your 3D renders.
Drill your barrels, kids. If you don't, your model's not finished. And also paint your base rooms black. Because again, models
paint
not
your
finished.
Paint your base rooms whatever color you want them to be.
As long as it's black.
Are we getting into this? Are we getting into this right now?
No, we got to move on. Okay.
I'll also accept Goblin Green. So the last thing on Wednesday is the swag bag.
Oh yeah, so we got up to the room and I was fucking hammered. It was funny because like we looked through the swag bag and then I forgot I guess I wasn't recording at that moment. And so like 2 days later I was like, Campbell, have we looked through this swag bag yet? And
I'm like, yes,
like,
yes we have.
Did.
And you're like, no, I don't think we have. And you're like, well, I remember this.
There was a bunch of stuff for games that I'm probably never going to play, but they did have the Shadespire Goblin Warband.
Yeah.
Zarbag's Gits, or Jits, as you would say.
Zarbag's Jits, please.
Zarbag's. Yeah, and that actually, I don't know when I'm going to fucking work it in to my painting schedule, but that is something I wouldn't mind painting.
I mean, it's like half a dozen models and they're little, but I agree that it's also the highlight. Because, like, all right, I went through the whole thing and I'm like, look at all this great stuff. I'm not going to play any of these games.
Yeah.
So I have fortunately found, means of parting it out and selling it off and so on. So I think it's great that, again, like I'm subsidizing my Adepticon ticket purchase with this stuff, but I've got a gut feeling I'm not really going to go for swag bags much in the future because the main thing I want is like the event exclusive model, and you're getting that in the super exclusive swag bag that no one can get, or you can just fucking buy it. Yeah. And I mean... Right. Yeah, I'm getting some money back by selling the stuff off, but I'm saving myself the hassle of doing that by just not getting a swag bag.
Yeah, I think as far as Adepticon goes, I think I'm with you. With Nova, I mean, I live close to Nova, so I can just fucking get the giant swag bag and be like, and fucking drive it home.
And also for Nova, I do KR multicase as my foam system, so, oh my God. So I'll just give me 1 second.
What are you doing?
Give me cat. All right.
The dangers of recording with pets in the room.
Sorry.
I'm leaving that in.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you hear her meowing like violently in the background?
Yeah, I did.
She's the best cat, but she was like, I want out. I'm going to start knocking shit over.
Perfect.
But yeah, for Nova, I'm going to keep doing the Supernova for them because I actually use KR foam and I actually use KR cases, and like the chance to get those is really good for me and saves me some money. For this, I will say objectively it is a great swag bag, but subjectively I'm not going to play any of these games. There's just too much in there.
Yeah, I'm going to try to be selling these this upcoming week just to get them out of my house, because I can already tell Danielle doesn't want that big box of shit that I shipped back from Chicago in our house anymore.
Yep, that makes 2 fiancés of ours.
All right, well, let's move on then. Wednesday was great. Wednesday was more of a hangout time, but Thursday is when the shit got extremely real right off the bat for me, because I woke up hungover, which is always a good thing.
Extremely cool when you're waking up like 9.
Yeah,
8.
Well, that's right. We were the event started at, I think registration for the event started at 8, and we were like. Well, I had gotten up extremely hungover in the room and like looked at the event schedule on my phone on the app, and it said 8, and at this point it was like 8:20, and you were still asleep, and I was like, in my fucking underwear, and I was like, fuck, we gotta go, and I was like, Campbell, you gotta wake up.
I think I might have said you were lying.
You did. You're like, I was like, the event started at 8, and you're like, you're a liar.
You're full of shit. You can't. It's
but
illegal.
It actually worked out. We threw on some clothes, got our fucking armies together, and went down there. And the event, it didn't actually start until after 9. It was just registration for the event opened at 8. So we get down there at like 8:35, and the first thing we see is our friend Alfredo is like, you guys are smart. Coming in a little bit late. I've been here since 8, just fucking sitting around. And I was like, yeah, dude, we are smart. We're super smart. The smartest guys. So this is the 40k Gallant. We're talking about a 75 power level 3-round tournament. And, power level is pretty garbage, but...
Especially for Space Marines.
Yeah, but I want to say that I had a ton of fun in this event.
No, me too. Like, I think having it be power level just kind of puts a tacit sort of deal out there towards the people playing over what kind of games you can be expecting. Because it was, again, 75 power level. It was only 1 detachment?
No, you could have up to, I think you could have up to 2 detachments,
but no big stuff.
Right.
Or at least no Primarchs. Because I think someone brought Knights, or brought a Knight.
Oh, no, there were Knights. There was the Seraptech construct, the big giant Necron thing. There were...
Yeah, I know. I know that guy kind of thrashed quite a few players.
Well, I was talking to him. His name's Nick, and I met him last year at Adepticon, and he's a really nice guy. And he was saying that like his whole army would get killed like by turn 2, like every game, and then the construct would just be left on its own, and then it would just like roll through an entire army's worth of opposition on its own, just kicking and shooting everything to death.
I think Carl played against him, and he was like, okay, your Predator takes 30 AP -3, damage 2 hits, and Carl's like, I'm good. I'm just gonna take the model off.
Yeah, it's a pretty strong little character. Okay, but we had it was three rounds, 75 power level, and it was a great tournament. They had some bespoke missions. The missions were okay, kind of. They weren't terrible. They weren't great.
The only one that really left an impression on me mission-wise was the second one.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that. Actually, I really loved that mission. The first mission was kind of wonky because you had like this asymmetrical objective set up. And you'd have an attacker and a defender, and it seemed from everybody I talked to, including my game, it seemed like the defender like really just didn't have to do anything, and they would be scoring because it was progressive scoring too, and they just score a ton of points the whole game, while the attacker had to do like all of the work for the game. You want to talk about your game?
Yeah. Because my first game was against Reynolds, who is actually a Boston local who I used to play when I was like 20. And I see him once in a while, and it was like, oh, cool, I'm glad we flew out to Chicago to play against each other since, we both live in the Boston area. But yeah, he brought Speed Freak Orcs. You got a bunch of the new buggies and like a couple of converted buggies that were really cool. One was converted to look like the Bullet Farmer guy from Mad Max.
Very cool.
And I just, it was night fight, so it was -1 to hit, but you had this like stratagem where you could use a spotlight on something for one command point. And I think I used that in his main buggy, and then just with all my like rerolling las cannons, just blew up a bunch of his buggies up, and they'd explode and make the other vehicles around them take damage, and that was super cool.
And you had your Black Templars in this event.
Oh, yeah, of course I had my Black Templars. But I think I was in the defense. But I seem to recall he had, there were like 2 objectives on his side of the field, one in the middle and one in mine, and then a bunch of secondary objectives that I was guarding.
Oh, no, then you were on offense then, if you only had one objective in your deployment zone.
All right, because I think I also deployed like not as far in, and I had 4 little objectives where if he got on one, he would burn it and he'd get points for it, but if he did not, I would get points for it.
Okay.
So I was just kind of like spread out and defending a few of the objectives and kind of chunks down the middle of the table, but he's orcs. He wants to move up fast and punch me, so he tried to do that. The fortunate thing is I am Black Templars. I like it when things come close to me. It means I can hit them back. Yeah, I focused on a bunch of his vehicles right from the start, and he came in really close, which is right where my army allegedly succeeds. And I just kind of picked his army apart. Like, he even had like a Knob Squad come out, and then I had Terminators like shoot them up and punch them up and so on. And it was a very bloody game. It was a very fun game. And it did culminate in my Marshal Dietrich Donnerschlag and his war boss getting into a duel and killing each other, which was great.
Very nice.
Yeah, I had to use the even in death only in death does duty end stratagem because his saves were pretty good in that guy. But it was fun. Any game where there's like any game that bloody is good. Any game with a duel between commanders is usually good, and any game where they kill each other is even better.
Yeah,
but I ended up winning that one.
Awesome. So my first game was also against orcs, but a different flavor of orcs. I played a fellow named Chris, and he brought the Dread Mob specialist detachment from Vigilus.
All right.
So he had, oh gosh, I think he had 12 Killicans, a Gorkanaut, a Morkanaut, a couple of Death Dreads, and a Big Mech.
All right.
And that was it. So this game, like, it was night fight, like you said, and I brought my Primaris Raven Guard, and I was on defense. So my guys, like, I knew that he was going to have to try to get close. So I just sort of hung back and waited for him to get close. And then whenever anything would get close enough for me to, blow it the fuck up, that's exactly what I did.
Yeah.
And his army kind of relied with a lot of shooting with his like mega DACA whatever guns on the Gorkanaut, the custom guns on the Morkanaut, and then he had like a lot of scrap launches and big shooters on his grot dudes, his Killicans. And so he was on, I was playing defense, he was playing offense, so he had to come to me. And, all these dreadnoughts are hard to kill because they're all like toughness 5 or toughness 7, or the Gorkanauts are like toughness 8. And I've got a lot of strength 4 shooting and some strength 7/8 shooting. And in a night fight scenario, like, I'm not going to be overcharging dudes half across the table to pick off Killicans because
it's silly.
Right.
Yeah.
And Killicans have like 5 wounds each, dude.
Really?
Yeah.
Jeez.
It takes 3 overcharged Hellblaster shots to kill 1.
Good gravy.
So it got into this, it sort of was a slap fight for like the first 3 turns as he moved up the table and couldn't hit me for shit. And I couldn't really do any damage to him. But then on like turn 4, when we got close enough to actually start fucking with one another, like shit popped off. Like I capped both of his dreadnoughts in 1 turn of shooting and like took down his Gorkanaut quite a ways. Like took out a bunch of Killicans, but then he got in combat with his Gorkanaut and a bunch of Killicans, and like it was a choppy, sluggy punch fest, and it was fun. It was a really good game, and it ended in a draw, a 15-15 draw, and it was just a very, very engaging, very strategic, very maneuverable kind of game, and I had a lot of fun with it. And I brought my Flamestorm Hellblasters. Or not Hellblasters, Flamestorm Aggressors, yeah, to this one because I was like, I never use them because they're garbage. But I was like, it's a fucking Gallant GT, and I can't make power level lists to save my fucking life. So Flamestorm Aggressors, and they actually did get in and got to punch stuff. I think they did not survive the battle, but they got in and got to punch stuff, and I think they got to flame like a bunch of Killicans. And I did something stupid like 30 hits on them with like strength 4, and then like it translated into 1 unsaved wound or something like that.
Sounds about right. Sounds about right.
Yeah, but it was a really good game, and Chris was a really nice guy. How did your second game go?
So my second game was against Alfredo, who is a goon pal of ours. We've met before at Nova, but I don't think he and I have ever played before.
No, he played. He had like a weird gallant because he played JD in the first round and then you in the second round.
He's just doing a staggered goon beat up over the course of the day. But yeah, we never played before. But speaking of JD, the two of them were in the team tournament.
Yeah.
And he brought a chunk of his list for the team tournament, essentially. So he had some rather tough units in there, like a Relic Contemptor, a Leviathan with a bunch of like Stormkins or whatever, and like the 10-man Intercessor Veteran Squad, which is kind of all the rage right now. And every one of those units is terrifying. I can say that outright. But the mission had it had a bunch of objectives, but the main thing was the buildings were all on fire. And it was a very dense table. And fortunately, because the buildings were on fire, they blocked line of sight, which is the only reason I was able to survive, because it was a very dense board and you couldn't see my shit. So the central building that caught on fire, was kind of like the one with the main objective in it. And he later joked that that's because it was the Badcast t-shirt storage warehouse.
Highly flammable.
Yeah, but I only was able to score more points because, like, yeah, I was kind of running and he'd occasionally have a unit peek out, and I was a little more maneuverable than his army since I had a Storm Raven and, you know, a bunch of Dreadnoughts on foot that could kind of move around a good amount. And I was able to kind of like peek around corners and like take pot shots at his vehicles and slow him down. And the only reason I was able to take the main objective was because I had like a big fucking 15-man Crusader squad, and I could just keep and like a Rhino, and I could just keep throwing wounds onto the objective, even if they couldn't kill his units that were on the objective. I could just out survive them by throwing more bodies on, like literally throwing more bodies on the pyre to score victory points.
It's the Black Templar way.
It is the incredibly Black Templar way. Like, killing yourself by setting yourself on fire for the Emperor is fantastic and very on brand. It was a cool mission. I think our lists were a little mismatched because, again, his was made for like the team tournament, and mine is my fucking garbage list with like 15-man Crusader squads on foot. But he was a very fun opponent, and we got to hang out so much at the con, which was awesome. And yeah, I'd say it was a fun game, and it was a cool mission, and it was kind of a cool equalizing mission too. And the only reason I won is because of how silly the mission was. Like, literally the only reason. If we were just in a regular game, he would wipe the floor with me.
Yeah. So in my second game kind of turned into similar. I played a fellow named Frank who had Dark Angels, and he had like a Land Raider, Terminators, some bikers, a bunch of small Marines, and the jet fighter. I forget which one. The bomber.
Yeah.
The bomber.
Not the Flying Church. The other one.
Yeah. And it was like right from the get-go, I was like, oh God, here we go. And similar kind of thing happened. Our central building caught on fire almost immediately. And the cool thing about that is it completely blocks line of sight for that, because it's like smoking and billowing. Not stuff in it, but like stuff on the other side of it you can't shoot at. So it made this like very much like maneuverable, sort of like he would come around one side and I'd have to throw some units on the other side to keep him out of sight so I couldn't shoot him. But it was good. He flew his jet fighter in like immediately to try to like start toasting Hellblasters or something. It didn't really work because he flew it right next to my Flamestorm aggressors. Ooh. And the one thing that's good against planes in 40k
is flamethrowers.
Flamethrowers, exactly.
Just like in the real world.
Yeah, so they stripped a bunch of wounds off of it, and I think my Hellblasters finished it off after that. And it was just, and I think he was sort of like, oh, I didn't think about that. I was like, well, what are you gonna do? So it was a good game, though. It was very, very close. Very close. He got in, and he started scoring a lot of points in the beginning of the game, because, again, it was progressive scoring, and the central objective was worth 5 points on turn 2, 3, 4, and 5. And you're, like, it's a shit ton of fucking points, right? So he comes in, and he gets the first 2. And I'm like... And at this point, I'm like scoring secondaries and doing a good job, but I'm like, I got to get in the fucking middle of this table. And it was by how much power level was in, I think within 6 inches of the objective was like how you would score it. So what I did is I marched my fucking Hellblasters up and kept them like exactly far enough away so that they were in, because Hellblasters are 8 power level per. 5 Hellblasters.
That's cool. And my Crusader squad was 12 power level, which is why I kept scoring, even when it was just like the sergeant and 1 neophyte left.
Yeah, but it turned out like he had a librarian that was just taking mortal wounds every turn, and eventually it killed him by just sitting in the flames. And the last 2 turns, I was able to move my guys into position and start getting the progressive points because I had more power level in than he did. And I ended up eking out a win in another extremely close game of 40k.
Very nice.
And it was I really liked the burning building mechanic. I thought that added a lot of fun shenanigans into it.
Did you ever use the firefighter or arsonist stratagems?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, no. It's cool that they're there, but I wasn't gonna
let it burn, baby.
If I had one in my like deployment zone that I had like a gun line in that I could only access by being in the building, I would use it. But when that building caught on fire, my guys just stepped out.
Yeah, fuck
like, oh, this building's not up to code. We're just gonna leave.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about this third game.
All right, so my third game was against a Genestealer cult and Tyrannid list, which is one of the few times I've played Genestealer cults or Tyrannids actually in 8th edition. And it had 3 objectives you had to be on at the end of the game. And I feel kind of bad. I can't remember my opponent's name. I ran to him a few times over the course of the weekend. I always said hi to him, but I can't remember his name right now. I gave him first turn, and he flew his Hive Tyrant and his Harpy way up. And I'm like, he had Zoanthropes, like a big brood of Zoanthropes and a bunch of weird GSC stuff in reserves. So he flies his stuff up and, does a little bit of damage, but then I just shoot down both his big bugs right away.
Okay.
And, when I killed his 2 heavy hitters turn 1. And
that's not good.
Everything else just kind of came to me 1 unit at a time. So, by the time his aberrants showed up, I think they're called aberrants, the big, tougher mutants. He didn't really have any other heavy hitters around for me to gun down. So I just focused them down. He had a bunch of Zoanthropes, which I just kind of like picked at over the course of the game until they finally all died. Where they're a little tough, but they're still like T4 with the 3-up invuln and I think 3 saves each.
Yeah, you just shoot them with bolters.
Yeah. He did have this really nasty trick with some characters where you have one guy show up, it reduces the leadership of something. Then you have the Patriarch show up, and I think he reduces your leadership with something else. And then he casts a spell where it's like his leadership versus your leadership, and you roll off, and it causes a bunch of mortal wounds. He did that on my Land Raider Crusader. And I used Armor of Contempt, which gives you that 5-up invul or 5-up save against mortal wounds, which I've never used before. And we just rolled off. And he's like, the only way you can pass this is if I roll a 1 and you roll a 6. And after 2 or 3 of them, he rolls a 1 and I roll 6. And then my Land Raider ran over his characters, which was cool.
God. Yeah.
Our pal British Pat hang out with us for part of the game. And he was kind of like, he was like, you should probably use Armor of Contempt. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a stratagem I have.
Oh, you were getting help.
I was getting help because I forgot that was a thing.
Ugh.
But that was the only time. But then, he had this assassin show up and it charged my marshal and it did a lot of damage to my marshal. Then I'm like, all right, time for the Teeth of Terra, dude. And I just chainsawed him to pieces. And yeah, I just rolled up. And at the end of turn 5, I had tabled him except for one Zoanthrope character was floating around, and I just jumped on all 3 objectives, and it was just a pretty sound victory. It was an interesting game. I think he mentioned that he was kind of new to Genestealer Cult, I think, and he was just kind of trying that main trick with the Patriarch is a nasty trick, but once you do it, your opponent's like, I know I'm gonna look out for that because that can delete a unit in a turn.
Yeah.
So yeah, I ran him over.
But
nice. It was a cool game. It was a cool game.
Okay, so my third game was against a listener, a fellow by the name of Drew, who was a listener that I didn't know, that you don't know, that we don't know from the internet. He just is a 40k Badcast listener in the wild. His name's Drew, and he's really cool guy. Somebody who I hope to see at future cons. I think he said he lives in Kansas, so I don't think I'm going to see him very much in regular life. But Drew, I had a great game with you, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you again and hanging out with you again. And I hung out with him a few during the rest of the con. During the next day in the friendly, his table was always next to my table. So we were, continuing to hang out the entire time. Okay, so cool. Drew, this third mission was, again, these 3 objectives, 1 in each deployment zone, 1 in the middle, and you had to be on them at the end. And Drew had brought a actual brigade of guard.
Wow.
And I had included with 2 hellhounds, it's the good kind of brigade. And I had, my battalion and vanguard of Raven Guard. And I saw this, and it's just so many guys and tanks and stuff. And I was like, fuck, man, I'm not going to win this. I better just YOLO and just charge across the table, hold this one squad back to sit on my fucking objective in my deployment zone, and just run across the table and see what I can do. Well, Campbell, running across the table and seeing what I can do fucking worked out big time for me.
It shouldn't work against guard.
I almost tabled him.
Wow.
Yeah, it was. I think he had a wyvern and a couple of characters left, but I just fucking ran everything across. He rolled 2 hellhounds up towards the middle of the table, right, to cap this middle objective where all of my characters and shit and power fists were hanging out. So he rolls up, and I have to charge his hellhounds, right? And I want to charge with my power fist captain because he's going to do the damage, but I can't charge a hellhound with him first because hellhounds will kill shit that charge them.
Yeah, except 3d6 Overwatch flamers or whatever. Yeah.
So I do that on the first one with my Primaris Lieutenant, and he gets 4 wounds knocked off of him. So he's down to 1 wound, but he gets into combat, and then all the rest of my characters come in, and we punch the hellhound to death. Then the next turn, I charged the second Hellhound first with my Primaris Librarian to try to, soak up the Overwatch so my captain can charge. And he kills the Librarian.
Oh, no.
And the only thing I have to charge is the captain, and I have to do it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, fuck, here we go. Roll your Overwatch. Fucker rolls 3 1s.
Fuck yeah.
3
Fuck
1s
yeah.
for a number of shots. And then I'm like, we're screaming and yelling and shit, having a great time.
Oh, that rules.
Then he rolls to wound. He rolls 3 1s again.
Oh, my God.
So 3 hits, no wounds. Captain gets into base-to-base contact with the tank and punches it to death in 1 turn.
Jesus.
It doesn't explode. And
That
then
rules.
after that, so that was at the center of the table. And during this, my intercessors are picking off guardsmen because intercessors, if they stay still, they can fire 2 shots up to 30 inches.
Yeah, that bolter rule is very helpful for me this weekend.
It's extremely good. So when you've got guardsmen, you're just like pop, 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 pop. You're taking down half of the squad every turn, and they'll fucking run away.
Yeah.
So my guys got close. My aggressors got close. They managed to just mow down turns or squads of guardsmen per turn. They're charging tanks, beating up Lehman Russes. There was a point where my Contemptor Dreadnought actually made it into combat with the Lehman Russ and just fucking smoked it in 1 turn.
Nice.
And it was rolling through and just eating up guardsmen. And at the end of the game, I think I was on all 3 objectives.
Yeah.
And
nice.
I thought I was going to get shot off the table, my dude. Mm. But no, just fucking running at guard was the way to do it. But it was a great game. Like I said, Drew is a really cool dude. I hope to hang out with him again in the future. Mm. And the Gallant, I think, well, we can get to it later, but the Gallant was a ton of fun. And I really look forward to doing it next year. Ken and John do a fantastic job. But there's one more thing to talk about with the Gallant, Campbell.
Yeah, I can feel it. It's like a weight around my neck. I can almost feel it right now.
Are you podcasting right now with the medals you won at Adepticon on?
No, because I experienced genuine neck strain after the 3rd day.
So Campbell won the event. He was the overall winner with his extremely broken all small marine Black Templar
Black
list.
Templars mostly on foot. I won the Gallant Overlord medal. And it's engraved. I didn't know they're engraved on the back.
No, the Adepticon medals are fucking choice. They make the Novo medals look like shit. Sorry, Mike. You won't listen to this podcast, so fuck you. But sorry. So congratulations on that, man. You had a wonderful pain in the army. You sounded like you had 3 really good games. Well, maybe not the last game, but you had a couple of really good games in there.
The last one was good too. No, actually, I did enjoy all 3 of my games a lot, and they both were both games where I did have to think a lot, and they were very fun experiences with my opponents. Yeah. No, even if I didn't win the medal, I would still say I had a fantastic time with this event, and it was totally worthwhile.
Yeah. And so later that night, we went down to Kuma's Corner and had some burgers, which is a great place for that. Yeah. They play metal music, and they have metal-themed burgers. And they're fucking delicious.
Yeah, if you want the experience of going to that restaurant, listen to our Patreon episode about burgers and our Patreon episode about our favorite music and just play them over each other. And that's kind of the experience. If you could eat that.
And then that night we came back to the hotel and played a little bit of Blackstone Fortress. I wish we could have played more, but I was so fucking tired.
I was also probably a little too sloppy to be playing that game. Because I'm like, oh, here's a complicated board game. Oh, look, my friends. And I wandered off halfway through.
You did do that.
It's because I saw David Robertson.
Yes, he was there. I didn't know he came to Adepticon.
Yeah, I didn't know he came to Adepticon either until I was chatting with him, which was super cool. He's one of our Nova crew and one of our pals from the from the narrative every year. So it was extremely cool to see him around.
Yeah, I kind of feel bad though, because Craig did a ton of work painting all that stuff up, and we played 2 rounds of that game, and but I was just so fucking tired.
I mean, I will say those 2 rounds were very cool.
They were really, and the models looked fantastic. Craig did,
and you and I, we had fisticuffs.
Oh yeah, because you decided to fight me over some bullshit.
Because a card decided I should fight you over some bullshit.
No, you had the choice to not fight me, and you were like, "No, I'm going to fight him," and then you permanently injured one of my fucking ratlings.
I had the chance to roll some more dice. I wanted to roll some more dice.
And then I was like, fuck you, dude. I'm going to fight you back. And we kept fighting back, and then you finally stopped. But you're still a piece of shit for that. I'll remember that.
A robotic piece of shit, please.
I die. All right, well, let's move on to Friday. Thursday was great. Had a fantastic time. Friday, also great. We're in the 40k friendly, and this one doesn't start till 10 o'clock, which was like,
Righteous.
yes.
Yep.
And neither of us are hungover. We're both feeling fine. We get up.
Yes,
we go to the friendly.
surprisingly.
It was amazing. So we get to the friendly, and this time it's themed off of the Princess Bride. They do a movie theme every single time, and they create special missions. They create stratagems and all these special rules and stuff. The guys who run it do such a good job and do a ton of work.
And they were dressed like the Dread Pirate Roberts and Inigo Montoya.
Which is
very important. That is very important.
And again, the friendly is a really chill event. It's more just about getting games in than it is about like having these crazy competitive micro fucking games like the team tournament and the championship are. And so it's really, really chill. So 3 rounds again. And okay, there's one thing I don't like about the friendly though, and this is the second time in a row where this has happened. They bring these stratagems, they make stratagems up for the game, and they have stratagems that like cancel a unit's shooting or
like
combat.
They can't shoot for 2 command points, or they can't fight for 2 command points, which I don't like that.
I don't like that either. I think that like in friendly events like this, like there shouldn't be mechanics like that. There should be mechanics that elevate your own troops, but not take away from the other player's agency.
Because like there's one stratagem that's 0 command points, which is the only custom stratagem I use, which is let your opponent reroll a die. Because that's kind of like the vibe
or
here
any
is like,
number of die.
Yeah, because one of the this is an event where one of your secondary objectives is buying your opponent a drink. Like,
yeah, I did that every single time.
Same. Except for when someone else did it for me, or brought their own, so we didn't have to buy anything from the very expensive hotel bar. But yeah, like it's that stratagem that takes agency away from a player and takes something they're excited to do away is really not fun. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I've never liked that sort of thing. Like I never liked Lash's submission back in the day in 5th edition 40k. I don't like this sort of thing now.
Yeah, but there were like good stratagems. Like there's one that you could pump up a character for a round of combat and give him or her double attacks and reroll wounds and hits, which that's cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
Like I used that with my my Powerfist captain to punch a Gorkanaut to death.
Yeah.
The Gorkanaut only had 1 wound, but I did it anyways. So we don't like those stratagems, but I think I had a game where the player used one of those stratagems on me, and I was like, "All right, fella, you're gonna do that. Well, I'm gonna do it to you." But I didn't feel good about it, and I wouldn't have done it if he didn't do it to me because I saw them in the thing, and I immediately thought to myself, "I was like, I'm not gonna use these unless the other guy uses them on me first."
Yeah, so I think that's a good way to go about them.
Yeah. All right. So first game, I played against this fellow named Clint. The robe guy, he's called. Because he was wearing a robe and a bush hat and like slinging beers the entire time. This guy was
and a Judge Dredd badge.
Yeah. Well, he had a Judge Dredd themed sisters army.
Yeah.
And he was living the 40k friendly lifestyle, and it was really, really great. So he rolls up. First thing he does is gives me a giant fucking tall boy beer can of Iron Maiden's beer.
Yeah, the Trooper.
Yeah. It's okay.
It's an acceptable beverage.
It is a beer.
But it's a free beer.
But it was a free beer at 10 o'clock in the morning. And it was he was a super nice guy. And we played a pretty good game where he had a bunch. I had 1,500 points of 1 battalion of Raven Guard, and which was like very similar to my 1,500 point list from last year. Mm-hmm. But like points cost went down so much that I just like removed a couple of Reaver squads because Reavers are bad. Added in a Contemptor Dreadnought and a Repulsor.
Nice.
So it was a good list. I liked it a lot. So this is a game where he had like a couple of Exorcists who were kind of scary because they have D6 shots, strength 8, AP -4, and D6 wounds. And then he had a bunch of Sisters and Dominion squads in Repressors. And Repressors are a Forge World model that have firing points.
That's unusual in this day and age.
6 firing points each. So if you have a squad of Dominions with 4 Meltaguns, you can just roll up your Repressor and fire out 4 Meltaguns and a couple of bolters or a combi melter or something out of the top of that thing and totally fuck up, say something like a Repulsor.
Very easy, I imagine.
This was a little bit of cat and mouse in this game. Literally, there was a rodent of unusual size that would crawl around the map. Every turn, you roll 4d6, and it'd move towards the closest enemy unit, and if it touches them, it would do D3 damage. Mm-hmm. And then there was the fire swamp thing. So every turn you had to roll for all of your units, and on a 6, they would take D3 mortal wounds because just you're in the fire swamp. And I got fucking hosed by the rodent of unusual size and the fire swamp the entire battle. Like I was just getting dudes killed left and right the whole time. So this game was like he sort of like took his repressors and stuff and tried to go around some of the terrain, the line of sight blocking terrain to like flank me or whatever, which I don't think was actually a good idea for him. I think if he just charged all 5 of his repressors up and was firing out of it the whole time, I wouldn't be able to have killed all of them. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, because repressors, they're tanks, and my Hellblaster squads were like already severely weakened by the rodent of unusual size in the fire swamps, where like I was down, I think 3 Hellblasters turn 1 without having any shots being fired, just the fucking randomness of the mission. So like, and that's like, those are the dudes that do the most work in my army.
Yeah, they're the heavy lifters.
So he tried to flank me instead, and it sort of meant that I could deal with his stuff piece by piece, which is exactly how I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And I have my librarian in this list, and I kept buffing my repulsor with Mighty Heroes, which gives it toughness 9.
Whew.
So he'd roll up with meltaguns and be like, all right, I got 5 meltaguns shooting into your repulsor. And I'd be like, okay, hits. And I'm like, all right. And then he's like, all right, wounds. And I'm like, toughness 9. He's like, oh, because it's 5 to wounds there. And he would just, whiff bounce on all of the wounds. And my repulsor would just be like, what's up, motherfucker? But yeah, so at one point I was about to shoot a bunch of his shit, and then he used the repulsor can't shoot thing, or the unit can't shoot thing on the repulsor. And I was like, okay. And so he had Celestine, right? And Celestine kept getting up. There was a stratagem that you could get after a character dies. You can spend, I think, 2 command points, and it gets back up with D6 wounds. Yep. So Celestine gets up on her own on a 2-up, right? And so I killed her once. She gets back up. Then I killed her again, and she gets back up again with 6 wounds.
Jesus.
And so I had to kill Celestine 3 fucking times in this game, and I did.
She stayed down the 3rd time?
Well, yeah, there wasn't anything else he could do to bring her back at this point. But finally took her out. And I did use a Celestine can't fight stratagem because he had already used it on me.
Yeah,
and
he used it first.
I was like, all right, well, if you used it, I'm going to use it. And so she had to miss a round of combat, which was choice. And then my Power Fist captain, who did a fuck ton of work for me the entire weekend, came in and punched her to death. And I think I might have used the 10 attacks with rerolls, hits, and wounds on that one too, because I was like on this one, I was like looking at all these stratagems, and I was like, I'm gonna have to fucking save my command points because I only have 8, and these stratagems are crazy good. And as soon as he used the one that made my repulsor not shoot, I was like, okay,
gloves are off.
I have to save at least 4 for my fight and when I'm gonna stop Celestine from fighting at one point. But at the end of the game, I had managed to take down his squads and his repressors for the most part. And I did get a win, but it was a very close, very bloody affair. And my my fucking Contemptor like did shit the whole game except charge across the board, right, and blow up a what do you call it, a exorcist in combat, and then like mow down a unit of sisters with his assault cannon and stormbolter after that, and then sit in an objective for the rest of the game with like 1 wound remaining.
Righteous.
It was fucking perfect.
Mine did something very similar in my second game.
All right, tell me about your first game.
So before we even get to our games, I'm already drawing on power because I have my medal, and that's cool and all, but this is when we broke out our Cult of the Soul-Armed Emperor tank tops, and our Naruto headbands, and then even the team tournament sort of bandana sort of things, and I felt very powerful.
I did too. I felt that we not only looked good, but we felt good. It was great. And I think there was a couple of our friends had their tank tops, their Cult of the Swole-Armed Emperor tank tops on. Craig and JD did. Yep. And there were a couple of other people like, oh, you guys should have told me you were doing this. I would have done it too. And it's like, well, fellas, sorry. Our bad.
Yeah, sorry you don't share the psychic link that we have.
Also the room that we shared, and we talked about it.
also those two things, but the first thing as well. So I think, honestly, I'm coming to each of these tables, and I'm intimidating my opponents way too much right from the start. I think that's the case. That probably dinged me on sportsmanship. All right, so my first game was against Richard from Northern Ireland and his Blood Angels, and his army was fucking gorgeous. Like, I think it was one of the prettiest armies I saw all weekend. It had like tons of converted models. Like, everything was converted. He had a mix of small Marines and big Marines. He had models ranging from like Rogue Trader Beakies to Death Company. He converted from Reavers to modern Inceptors and Intercessors and so on, and a nice display board and everything. So he gets me a PBR, and we start our first game. And he does like the full like blows a bunch of command points to do like Descent on Wings of Fire, Descent of Angels, Smash Captain, Death Company Smash Captain, turn 1 charge. Yeah. You know, that whole chestnut. And he charges my 5-man fire support Crusader squad, my Las Plas Crusader squad. He gets in. He swings. He hits once.
Oh my God.
He wounds once. I save.
Oh no.
He blows the command points to fight a second time. He hits like 5 times, wounds 4 times. I still save 1. So he kills the 3 bolter guys.
Oh, no.
So on my turn, I just fall back and shoot him to pieces.
Yeah.
And that kind of set the stage for a lot of the mission. I'd say the Wandering Rat of Unusual Size and the Fire Swamp did more damage to my army than his army did a few times.
Oh, no.
And, you know, I was just able to kind of like cut his army to pieces from range, you know, just with Hurricane Bolters, Tannon, any infantry that got in the open. I love my stupid, like, las cannon that hits on 2 and reroll and fires twice, rerolling 1s trick. I do almost every single game. I use that to blow up his Land Raider turn 1.
Venerable Dreadnought, right?
Our Venerable Dreadnought. He has 2, hitting on 2s, rolling 1s. But next to him, I have a fucking Devastator squad with a las cannon and an ammo cherub, and the sergeant as a signum. So the sergeant can do a 2-up on the signum, and then you blow the cherub to shoot twice. And they FAQ'd it so the cherub lets you shoot twice as with the 2-up from the signum. So I'm able to get that like 2 shots, and I use Wisdom of the Ancients on the Dreadnought and reroll the 1s. Yeah. And every time I explain it, I feel like I'm like drawing like a complex math equation on the chalkboard, but in reality, I'm just putting up like 2 + 2 = 5, and I'm wrong. Like, it's way less complicated than I think it is. And it's the only combo I understand.
Vendreads and Small Marine Devastators, fucking OP.
Owning the meta.
OP Black Templars.
His luck was just kind of on the back foot the whole time. Like, he drops his 10-man squad or his 10-man Death Company down in front of my little fire support castle, which is my Devastators and my Venerable Dreadnought. And I didn't even use the stratagem. I think I might have used the stratagem to shoot them when they deep struck. Either way, but they failed their charge. And I just shot them to pieces out in the open. I blew up his Land Raider, and then that meant his Terminators, his Assault Terminators were on foot marching out in the open. And I think they were mostly based on like the Space Hulk Assault Terminators. So they looked really good. And it was just like a lot of his guys on foot and my guys shooting them from a distance. And I'd occasionally get into combat, but most of the time I wouldn't, because his guys were much better in combat than mine were.
Yeah.
But it was still a really fun game. I would love to play him again. I hope to see him either at Nova or Adepticon again in the future. And yeah, it was a silly mission. We didn't really use any of the custom stratagems or custom rules aside from buying our opponent's beer. And it was a good time.
All right, so my second game sucked. It was against, the guy was really nice. His name was John. Really nice guy. And he, like, as soon as we rolled up to the table, I looked at his army and I was like, oh, I'm losing. And he looked at mine and he was like, okay, this. All right, let's make this quick, because he had orcs, he had a big Luda squad, he had several large boys squads, he had several large Gretchen squads. I think he had I don't think he had a brigade. I don't think he had any fast attack, but he had like a Gorkanaut. He had the Big Mech with the Relic Shock attack gun. All of this on a table with no fucking line of sight blocking terrain. That's one thing about Adepticon that blows, and it's the terrain goes from amazing, like on the Gallant tables.
Gallant tables are so
but
good.
The Gallant tables, it's because Ken and John make their own terrain for this event. or they also run a similar event at Dragonfall. But it's like their whole deal is they love making terrain, and they make sick fucking terrain. But on like the friendly tables, it is sparse, dude.
Yeah.
Like on this table, there were a couple of hills, and so I'm like, fuck. Like if it's a situation where I end up like I deploy hiding my models, right? So I can't get picked off by Ludas in the Relic Shock Attack Gun turn 1. And because the Relic Shock Attack Gun is 2d6 shots, 2d6 strength, d6 damage.
Jesus.
Like it's going to fuck something up, whatever it shoots at. And you can fucking more DAC of that thing, so it automatically hits on 5s and 6s, and they both explode, regardless of my Raven Guard trait or anything. So it's a situation where I have to hide my shit, right? And like as the game starts, like if I come out, I'm just going to get picked off one by one, and I'm not going to be able to kill his Ludas because I don't have enough long range shooting to kill them, and B, I'm not going to be able to kill them because he'll just pick models from Gretchen squads.
Yeah, with that
shields. Stratagem. Yeah.
Yep.
And like he's got 30 boys, and I don't really want to. He had like 2 or 3 squads of 30 boys, and I don't want to waste a ton of time shooting at them because like if I take them down to under half, he's just going to recycle them, and they're going to come back on the board. And this is the game where you're scoring your objectives at the end of the game. So if I waste a ton of time shooting at boys and they come back and they just walk on and score one of the objectives in his deployment zone, it's like, fuck, dude, what am I? It's a waste of fucking time. Yeah. So like I come into this game and it's, you put objectives basically in your deployment zone and you sit on them, and whoever has more at the end of the game wins. But like 3 of them are special objectives.
All right.
Where they do shit. Like one of them is like supposed to be Inigo Montoya, one of them is Fezzik, one of them whatever. And like one of them was like you heal D3 wounds to one of your guys. Another one was you cause D3 mortal wounds to a squad somewhere. And then the third one, and this is the one that killed me, was you force a squad to take a morale test as if they have lost 6 models.
Yeah.
Which is fucking brutal. That's even tough for Space Marines. So he's forcing my intercessors to take these morale tests, and they're fleeing. Like I'm losing 4 to 5 intercessors a turn, and I have 3 intercessor squads holding any objectives. They just disappear. Right? He ends up charging. Like it's a game where immediately after like deployment, it was like this game is over. But we played it through. It went quickly, thankfully. He ended up charging his Gorkanaut in, and I think he did it for fun, basically.
Yeah.
Where like it was, came in and got shot by a bunch of Hellblasters, and then punched to death by my captain. And then I was like, "You won't charge me with your bike." He had a biker war boss. He was like, "Fine, I'll fucking do it." And then he charges the biker war boss in, kills my captain. My captain gets to fight again with only death to duty end, and then my librarian smites the biker war boss to death. So that there's a little bit of fun going on at that point. But it was like the game was over before it started. So
I get you.
And I think it was a combination of a terrible matchup, no line of sight blocking terrain, and a wonky, one-sided, not necessarily well thought out mission.
I get that. Yeah. I experienced bits of all of that over the course of my next 2 games. So,
how'd your second game go?
My second game went better than yours, but still not super great for me. So in our game, it was against my game was against Will and his Space Wolves, and I think they were all small marine Space Wolves, and also my second Land Raider encounter of the day. Yeah, and this one had those special objectives as well, but they never affected anything because Will's dice were good. I will just say that right now, his dice were good. Like every time I had that objective that caused the morale test at -6, I used it on a squad of his every turn for 5 turns, and he rolled a 1 every single time. So it was never an issue for him. But our board actually had a good amount of terrain. Like there was like a big ruin in the middle of the table. There were some like wrecked chunks of metal that were kind of line of sight blocking all around. This one had me doing rather well in spite of that. Like I would shoot his Land Raider with 4 las cannons, and he'd make 2 saves on 5 ups. Like that was kind of the standard of all his rolling.
Nice.
All the way throughout. Yeah, it was going really well for me actually. Like I was cutting his stuff apart. I was like keeping my stuff in reserve. I was waiting back. Like I had my squad of meta busting Tartaros Terminators with lightning claws in my Land Raider, and he drops his like big block down, which is like 5 Wolfguard Terminators, Arzak Rockfist, Logan Grimnar, and he drops them down. And I I think they charge into my Crusader squad, I think, and I just like hold him up for a turn, and then I charge out with my Terminators against his Terminators, and I cut him to pieces. And my captain is about to kill Logan Grimnar, and he plays the I think he's about to kill Arzak Rockfist, and he plays that 2 command point stratagem to keep me from fighting. So I blow the fight against stratagem just so I can fight.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, and I think he kills Arzak Rockfist, or I did only in Death is the End. Either way, I did get to fight with him, and things are going great for me. And, you know, I've blown up his Land Raider. I've got my Contemptor Dreadnought in his deployment zone because I charged his, like, squad and Razorback over there because, just like in your game, Contemptors just love to roll across the table and punch stuff and gun an infantry.
Well, they got 9 fucking movement.
They got a 5-up invuln.
They have a 5-up invuln. They have a fist that hits on 2s and does flat 3 damage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
They are amazing in combat.
I love them. They're a great unit. And I'm like, all right, I've got this game in the bag. And then the Wolfen showed up. And I no longer had the game in the bag.
Oh, no.
Like, he charged in with them. They, like, wipe my Terminators. I'm like, all right, I'm going to shoot with my Land Raider. And I fucking bounce off every... Yeah, but against bolters, I've got, like, 28 bolter shots, and they all bounce off. Like, I kill, like, 1, and they just roll through everything. And... Yeah, I can say if it weren't for the Wolfen, I would have won. But that's like saying, man, if I had 300 points off my opponent, I would win every game. But it was still a close game. It was still a bloody game. It was a fun game. He brought a cooler that I had, you know, that I was going to beer out of during the course of the game. It was a good time. I would like to play Will again. He unfortunately like hurt his knee like the first day of the con, and I'm just like, dude, I feel so sorry about that because
you're
gonna be standing on poured concrete for the next like 4 days, my dude.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I wore my good shoes and I was fine for the most part. But
I wore my,
at the end of the con, I was fucking feeling it. Like my back and knees were just like,
oh yeah, completely.
Okay, so my third game, I played a fellow named Kyle, and this turned out to be kind of a learning game for Kyle because he was very, very new to 8th edition 40k to the point where like he had an Imperial Guard, and like he didn't know that if you moved half or less with a Russ, you could fire twice.
Oh,
yeah. So okay. This mission seemed like a lot of fun because your warlords, the 2 warlords of the army, started the game 12 inches away from one another in 6 inches from the center of the board in a challenge, right? And there's this mechanic where you could fight or flee, and if you fled, well, the other guy fought, like you would lose a command point, the other guy and your opponent would gain that command point. And if you both fled, then you just both fled. But if you fought, then it was like a round of combat before the game starts. And so we come up. I've got my Power Fist commander, and he's got a company commander as his warlord. And he decides to fight. And I'm like, fuck yeah, Kyle, get after it, man. Yeah. It doesn't go well.
No, it doesn't.
It is funny, actually. The captain didn't kill him in the first round of combat, but I got the first turn. So he just shot him with a plasma pistol and killed him. But this game, like, Kyle was a really nice guy. And I hope that he, plays a lot more games of 40K and gets into it, but he just didn't know that much about his army. So I was, like helping him out, helping him with stratagems, helping him with, rules and stuff that his army did, and giving him some pointers like don't shoot wyverns at Marines in cover because it won't kill any. Yeah. Wait till they get out of cover. And it was like a learning and demonstration situation for him, and I hope it was good. Like I hope he enjoyed it. I think it sounded like he was having a good time, and he had his twin brother showed up at one point, and it's funny because Kyle has a mustache, but his twin brother doesn't. But other than that, they look the same. So
it's straight up a mirror situation. So you were playing as the evil twin.
I was playing evil Kyle, and good Kyle was watching. But no, both of those guys were really, really cool, and it was a fun game, and I hope that Kyle really sticks with it and can come back because Guard is for somebody who comes back into 8th, because I think he had stopped playing in 6th. Okay. And had missed 7th completely and came back in 8th. And I mean, that's similar-ish what happened with me.
Honestly.
It's a very pro move. But Guard is good.
Guard's very good.
Guard is a very good army, and he has a lot of stuff. And good stuff too. So he can definitely walk backwards into a good army list here and have some fun in 8th edition 40K.
Nice.
So, and I think they got some business cards from you at least, and I told them about the podcast. So if they do happen to listen to this one, fellas, I had a great time meeting you, and hope we can play again in the future.
I mean, I saw one guy walking around wearing an anarchist flag t-shirt, and I was like, have I got the podcast for you?
Right. All right, your third game.
Yeah, so my third game was against Tyler's Orcs, and unfortunately he was sick and kind of low energy when we started the game, and I'm a bit of a germaphobe, especially at cons, so I might not have had as much fun as I could have with this one.
Oh, no.
But turn one, we have that same challenge sort of thing, whereas, Marshall Dietrich Doner Kebab versus his bike captain, his bike boss guy, because he had orcs. And they fight, they each do some wounds, and I first turn, I'm like, chainswords are good in challenges. You know what's better in a challenge? Las cannons. So I fall him back and I just blow him away with las cannons.
Oh, no.
It's very honorable, I'll have you know.
Did you run away?
No, I had first turn. I just fell back in my movement phase.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I did not turn back during the challenge. I turned back after the challenge.
Okay.
The respectable retreat, the retrograde advance.
Sure.
But yeah, my first turn was like super good. Like I blew up he had a big orc gun line, had 3 mech guns, 15 Ludas, a bunch of trucks, a bunch of buggies, some boy squads, tons of stuff. And turn one, I just didn't move much, and I just blew up a bunch of his vehicles and blew up a bunch of his long-range shooting right away. And I'm like, all right, cool. This is going to go well for me. And then it proceeded to not go well for me.
Narrative voice, it did not go well for him.
So he's sitting there going turn one, he's I see him kind of deliberating for seriously 2 or 3 minutes, just kind of being I see him moving, doing the mental math, and he just throws his hands in the air and goes, what am I going to do? I'm just going to throw my bodies into a meat grinder. And he proceeds to jump a blob of 20 boys into my deployment zone pretty much and blow up my Land Raider and strand all my shit in my deployment zone on foot. And I just turn to him and go, what am I supposed to do? Throw my infantry into a meat grinder. So I will admit, turns 2 and 3 were not very fun. They were mostly me advancing my guys up an open ground table because this table had almost no terrain.
Yeah.
It looked good, but had no terrain. And just getting the shit shot out of my stuff and not doing much back to him. And then in turn 4, I finally kind of got that okay, I might have something here. Where he has his blob of boys, working its way through my deployment zone. And I've just got my Crusader squad, my Devastator squad, my Tech Marine with no vehicles left to fix because he killed all my vehicles in the first 2 turns, including both my Dreadnoughts. And I'm just okay, if I stagger my guys as such, I can actually block his charges and kind of zone off his charges to a degree. And I felt actually very clever for doing that. And that was kind of a cool little game within a game for me to do, just kind of hold the line with these guys while my Devastators just keep trying to work on the main objective and shoot stuff down. And in turn, in turn 4, he has, or turn 2, his tank buses blow up my Land Raider and then proceed to start messing up my infantry after that. And I'm having a rough time. And then I finally get to his line, and it is just my wounded Marshal who has 2 wounds left and half a dozen Crusaders.
Uh-huh.
And half of those are even the Scout Crusaders too, just because I wasn't especially great at my saves. And I'm well, I can't shoot his Ludas, and if I charge them, I'm going to get overwatched. But I can charge first his mech guns, and then move into his Grot squad and pile in from the Grot squad into the Ludas and capture his objective. And at game end, he had swept me on my side of the table. I basically just had those 5 Crusaders left, and they were just tied up with, they killed his Grots, they were tied up with his Ludas, but objective secured, they held his objective, he held my objective, and he just managed to win on secondary objectives.
Oh, nice, okay.
So it was a good game for me and a bad game for him that turned into a great game for him and a bad game for me that turned back into an okay game for both of us.
All right.
So
a little bit of a swing, yeah.
It was a bit of a swing, and I will admit, because of my germaphobe tendencies, I don't mean him any disrespect. I just went to the bathroom, I washed my arms up to my elbows, and I went up to Greggles, who was staying nearby, and he always has his little hand sanitizer on a carabiner, but it's right hanging from his belt at crotch level, and I just went sanitize me, daddy, and I just sanitized myself one more time, and I haven't gotten sick, so I guess I did things right.
Interestingly enough, Campbell. You were on the orange team.
I was.
For the 40K friendly. And in the friendly, no individual awards are given out except for painting and theme.
Right, which went to an incredible armies.
Yes, both armies. The theme army went to my opponent, one of my opponents from last year, Oleg, who goes all out with his themes, and he totally deserved to win. He had like a pirate ship with all of his dudes on it.
He had the Dread Pirate Marbo on it, which was amazing, and an old Citadel Giant as Andre the Giant. Like, it was an RUS themed, Princess Bride themed army, and it was very cool.
Right, and then the fellow who won for painting, like his army looked like unbelievable. It was great. But they do give out awards for the winning team, and Campbell, you and our friend Craig were on the winning team. So Campbell, you racked up your second medal of the con.
I
Friday.
did. I pulled a U and got a medal for my team winning despite contributing almost nothing.
Great job.
So, orange team rules. And
all right, So after that, we got some dinner, and then we prepared ourselves, our bodies and our minds, for 40K trivia.
Well, here's the thing. We were sort of waiting at the bar for it, and we're kind of like, are we even going to go? This seems kind of dumb. Like, who cares? It's, it was like the event that cost $5 to get into, and we were very much hemming and hawing on it. And we're at the bar, like, eating and drinking, and I think my man Alfredo runs over and is like, hey, guys, trivia starts in a minute. We got to get over to the table. And we're like, all right, sure. And we get over to our table, and there's like 7 of us, I think.
So their max team size was 8, and on our team, we had 7.
Yeah.
And it was like me and James and fake James and you. So that's 4. And then Patrick, Craig, and JD. It's for 7.
Okay.
And I'll tell you right now, both of us were kind of like, we'll see if we want to do this. And then we immediately got into it.
Oh, right away.
It was just like, we're here. We're doing it.
It helps that both Jameses brought like ample amounts of very good beer.
Yes. The Jameses were on point in this one, but the real champions were Patrick and Craig, who Craig is like a certified lore master.
Craig is the lore master.
And Patrick is right up there, and I think they really carried us to victory. There were a couple of Slumdog Millionaire moments for both of us, and we'll get to yours in a minute. I want to set the scene. So
chronologically, yeah.
So we've got 7 people on the team, which is one of the larger teams. And everybody knows that in trivia competitions, you want to have the max amount of people on your team always, just so you can get as many fucking facts into a team. So we're looking pretty good from the start. And I thought it was a really good way to do trivia is where you bid points on your questions. Like, they'd ask a question, you answer it, and like if you had high conviction, you can bid a lot of points. If you have low conviction, you can bid a little bit of points. And I thought we were very good at that sort of triage.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, we knew a lot of shit between the 7 of us. It's so funny. Like, James, real James, not fake James, is like one of the smartest guys around and is an extremely good Warhammer player, but he just doesn't know much about lore because he doesn't read the books or anything. So I'm sitting next to him, and he's just like, I don't know any of these guys. I don't know anything. And this trivia was hard. It was really fun. There were easy questions in there, but for the most part, it was hard. And apparently it was written by the Games Workshop guys.
Yeah, I think it was like partially written by Phil Kelly.
Yeah. And like that, I didn't know that. I thought like the Adepticon dudes came up with it or something. And it was fucking tough. So we go through it, and we're racking up points, and we're doing great. And I'm mainly talking shit to the other teams. Not necessarily contributing to actually, getting points.
Yeah, you're like leaving our table.
So they're calling out scores, whatever, and it comes to the end, and we are tied for first place.
Yeah, mind you, our team is Team Badcast Bad Boys, and there are other teams like Magnus did nothing wrong and Horace did everything wrong.
And so this other team, we're tied at 118 points at the end. So we come into the final round. And the final round, and everybody gets to participate in this one because you can bid up to 30 points on this one question. So I probably erroneously convince our team to bid all 30 points on the question with the idea of go big or go home. It's fucking trivia. Who cares?
Yeah.
And we bid 30 points. But here's the interesting, Campbell. So did literally every other team. Not just the team we were in competition with for first. Every other team in the competition bid 30 points in this question, which I just want to quick round of applause. Like,
for everybody involved.
Fucking awesome. Yeah. So the question comes out, and holy shit, it's take the 13 Black Crusades and link them with their imperial names. Yeah. Like the names that the Imperium has for these 13 Black Crusades. So I look at this and I'm like, Fall of Cadia, 13th. And that's it for me, fellas.
Yep. And I was
Thank
like,
you
okay,
very much.
Gothic War, 12th. And then JD's like, what's Corn's number? I'm like, 8. He's like, Skull Gatherer is the 8th. And I'm like, okay, you got that one.
Yeah, it's
like, I think we got one more, and that was it. No one got this question.
Nobody
Literally
got this question. So every team loses 30 points, right?
Yeah.
This question is impossible. Like, I don't even think, well, maybe some of the GW writers could get it, but like, I don't know if there's any fans that could just link up all the fucking names of the Black Crusades, the Imperial names of the Black Crusades from memory. So we go into the tiebreaker round. And this is where Campbell's Slumdog Millionaire moment comes into play.
This is my time to shine.
Right. So it's between us and this other team, and the tiebreaker round is simple. When did the first edition of Warhammer 40,000 come out? What year?
Yeah, and everyone at the table was like, well, one guy's like 1985, one guy's like 1986. Did it come out in 1998 or 1988? And I was like, guys, listen.
No, you had this like calm aspect around you, and you just like put your hands on your neighbor's shoulders and said, I got this.
1987.
And at that point, listeners, there was only one set of footprints in the sand as Campbell carried our entire team to victory. And what did you say, Campbell?
I said 1987 because the first Metal Space Marine was 85, but he was an adventure model, not a model for Warhammer 40,000. I've chewed enough lead that this is the sort of shit I remember.
So we put that in, we submit it, and we are the ultimate winners. And then they, we go and we shake hands with the other teams or whatever. And then the organizer comes up, he's like, hey, how many guys are in your team? I'm like, 7. Then he goes away and he comes back with 7 fucking medals.
Yeah.
We get fucking trivia championship medals. And then he's like, oh, and hey, here are a box of prizes. And they're all like GW models. And I snagged a box of 10 Hellblasters.
I got a box of Intercessors in shrink.
It's like we win this fucking trivia contest. We get medals. We get prizes. Our picture goes up on the Adepticon Facebook.
Yep, it's out there. I shared it on the Cam Hammer page, so you just look for it. You'll see a bunch of fairly drunk nerds and one very drunk nerd at the bottom holding a can of beer and wearing a Motorhead shirt, and that's me.
Yeah, it's fucking righteous, dude. Like, now this is a thing where if they do that again, we have to go back, try to get the same team, and defend our championship.
Yeah, no, I that event was... That might have been my favorite event.
Right. And then after that, we went and sang karaoke.
That's the marquee event, was a dozen of us goons or so going out to karaoke at an incredibly shitty dive bar.
Yeah. And it was a lot of fun. And then after that, it was really funny.
Don't go after that. We got some stories to tell while we're at this karaoke bar.
Oh, right.
I'm sitting there at the bar like Conan upon his throne, wearing all 3 of my medals around my neck, wearing my fucking like motorcycle jacket, and I'm watching Heavy Metal Sean belt out 3 Doors Down classics.
No, not Heavy Metal Sean.
Oh, Hard Rock Sean.
Yeah, Hard Rock Sean.
And he was like, hey, what are those medals for? And we're just like, well, this is some nerd stuff. We play these games. We're at a convention town. He's like, what kind of games? So we're like, yeah, like Toy Soldier. He's like, oh, let me show you this. And he breaks out his phone and he plays Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
And he's showing us like his homemade terrain.
Yeah.
And
he plays Lord of the Rings. He plays Lord of the Rings, but he scratch builds his own terrain.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fucking Hard Rock Sean, killing it. He was telling me like the terrain he built was out of styrofoam from a TV he bought. Mm-hmm. Like from the box that the TV came in.
Yeah.
Fucking Hard Rock Sean, man.
Yeah. It was like, all right. So you sang karaoke.
I did.
You chose a track. I didn't choose a track, but when that guy who is definitely somebody's uncle started singing Breaking the Law, I was on the floor.
That guy was he was rocking it, dude. His voice was amazing.
I love that he was singing like latter day Bon Jovi hits.
Yeah.
Hits with big quotes around it. Like that dude, that dude was doing a good job. So I at least got to participate. But I mean, more drinking happens here, of course. We got our $3 PBRs, which you had to spot me because I don't have cash ever. So I owe you one cheap, shitty beer at some point in the future.
I'm sure we'll have an opportunity to collect.
We will. Someone bought me a shot that tasted like Hawaiian Punch.
Oh, no. There were several shots bought. I was on a firm no shot policy, so I didn't drink any of them.
The problem is
I sampled. Oh my God, fucking Fake James comes out and he's like, all right, I got everybody a shot. And it is the most vilest liquid I have ever experienced.
It is called Malort. It is what happens if you make, like, if you were to brew tea using cigarette butts instead of tea leaves, you would get Malort. If you were to go to a dumpster and like collect the liquid from the bottom, that would be Malort. You know when you like pick up a trash bag and there's like a leak in the bottom and liquid is coming out and it's this gross garbage water?
And then you hold it up real high and put your mouth on it and suck like you're sucking on a fucking teat, a trash bag teat. Yeah, that is fucking Malort.
That is Malort.
Malort sounds like it would taste terrible.
Malort is like, hey, what if gin, but worse?
Yeah, so I took a tiny sip and I immediately was like, no.
I was tasting it till the next morning, I'll be honest.
So I think a lot of people like just fucking housed it and then started vomiting. Like it was bad. It was really bad.
I didn't vomit anymore this weekend, so I was good.
You're on top. After that, though, we did convince our Lyft driver to take us to a gas station to buy Gatorades. Craig and I did, at least, and a snack. And you stayed in the car because you're like some sort of brain genius. And so you were feeling like shit the next morning, but I was up and ready to fucking go.
Also, we get to the back of the hotel, and I'm like, I'm going to go find a snack. And you're like, you should have got one at the gas station. I'm like, cool. And I just like wandered the halls of the hotel for an indeterminate amount of time. And I came back being like, I found no snacks.
Yeah, and I was sleeping peacefully the entire time. And it was wonderful.
Yeah, so it's Saturday. I think you have an early game thing.
Yeah, I had to wake up early and go play Blood Bowl. Yeah. So I left you behind in the room. You were feeling like shit, and I was feeling amazing because I am amazing. And I go play some Blood Bowl. And I don't want to spend too much time on Blood Bowl because it's not a Blood Bowl podcast, even though it should be. But I end up playing 3 games. I play... Oh, God. Lucan's Humans to a draw. This one, okay, some comments. 1, Lucan, really nice guy, had never played in-person Blood Bowl before, had only played it on the Xbox or the computer. I think he said Xbox. I didn't know Blood Bowl 2 is on Xbox. I've played it on a computer. Doesn't matter. So he's never played it before in person. This is his first in-person game. And this is a situation that has happened to me quite a bit recently when I'm like working through a learning game with Blood Bowl opponents, is that I don't win, and I'm kind of getting tired of it.
Yeah, it's a very common thing when teaching anyone how to play.
I've been playing Blood Bowl for like 15, maybe even 20 years at this point, and I should win these games, and he fucking tied. And it was a draw, and I'm just like, fuck. So then I go into my second game. Let me just get through this real quick. Let me go into the second game, and I get fucking wrecked by Dark Eldar. Well, kind of. So first half, like we have these special play cards that they give out, and mine was really good, and I used it right at the end of the first half and stopped him from scoring, and he was just sort of like, oh my God. Like it was funny, but it was obviously a little bit frustrating for him. But it was still, but it's Blood Bowl, so you just gotta fucking roll with it. But he was fine. He was a great opponent. His name was Michael, and he was sitting next to a guy on the other side of the table at the mat next to us who was also named Michael. So every time I said Michael, both of them would look at me, and the other Michael was like, "Dude, you have to stop saying Michael." I'm like, "What the fuck am I gonna call him, dude?"
That's why we have a fake James. That's why we have a fake James and a real James. Right.
So second half though, it kind of goes off the rails, and he kicks my ass, and he beats me 2-0, which is fine. It happens. You know, it's Dark Elves and Orcs. Like Dark Elves are going to run around. Orcs are going to fucking plod slowly around. Whatever. Yep. Then the third game comes around. I'm playing this guy Joe, who he's enormous. Like not like fat enormous, but like big and strong enormous. And like he was in like the Air Force and used to train people how to survive in the wilderness.
He was the guy who threw airplanes off of aircraft carriers.
Yes, he throws them like footballs and they launch into the air. Yeah, he was also a really, really nice guy, which is why I felt bad for completely kicking his ass in Blood Bowl. But it's one of these things where it wasn't my fault. Like in Blood Bowl, when you knock somebody down, you roll against their armor, 2d6, right? And their armor value, if you beat it, then you roll 2d6 for an injury roll. And 2 through 7 is they're stunned. 8, 9 is they're knocked out, which means they leave the pitch, but they have a chance to come back. And then 10, 11, and 12 is casualties, and they're done. They're just out of the game. And in the first half, I did 6 casualties. It's just again, it was just hot fucking dice, man.
Yeah,
just hot dice. Did 6 casualties, and it wasn't fun for him.
That's a shame.
But we got through it, and then I bought him a beer afterwards, and we chatted for a while, and I think that may have uplifted him a little bit after that. But that was the first day of Blood Bowl, so I went 1-1-1, and I didn't get most casualties. I didn't win best painting. I need to make a Blood Bowl display board. My models are good enough that I can win best painting, but like there were like the painting portion of this year's Blood Bowl was definitely elevated since last year.
Blood Bowl as a whole is elevated since last year, even.
Yeah, I just need to make a display board. If I make a display board, I'm going to start winning fucking painting things. But
I think, did you post on Twitter your extremely cool dugout?
Yes, I did. I forgot to bring a dugout, so I had to make one on a piece of paper. Go to my Twitter and see it. It's pretty fucking funny. So the first day of Blood Bowl goes through 1-1-1, and I'm like, all right, I'm not really in the running for anything, but I had a good time, and I'll be back the next day to play 3 more games. But you had a bunch of pickup games on Saturday.
Yes. So Saturday morning, I woke up when you woke up, honestly. Yeah. And I was like, I look at my phone, I'm like, okay, Carl Tuttle from the Independent Characters and we'd been planning a rematch of our last Adepticon game from 2017, and we're going to do it on Saturday. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to text him to be like, hey, when do you want to get a game in today? And he's like, right now is good. And I'm like, you fucking morning person, you absolute demon, you spawn of Satan. He's like, yeah, just come on down. I'm like, give me a minute. So I come down, I meet him, he buys me breakfast, which is very kind of him and much appreciated. And also the actual, like, the restaurant in the hotel has like a breakfast buffet, and they have like fruit and things that aren't fried, which is great.
Yeah.
Or coming off a warming tray. So that was lovely. And we just hung out. We just chatted for a while, which was really nice. Just, get the morning started. And we go over to the open gaming area, which is near the Nirvana rooms. And there's actually an open table, and we set up a game. And the table and the terrain in the open gaming area, I will say, is not up to the same standard as a lot of the other terrain in the con. It's kind of like a lot of offcuts, but we got a table that had a bunch of like line of sight blocking hills at least, and a few barrels, which we used for cover. So he brought his Thousand Suns, and they're the Thousand Suns I think Dave Payne's paying for them, and they're gorgeous. Colin paying for it.
Colin,
yeah.
I forget his last name, but it's one of the Collins.
Yeah, I think Dave Payne did his Zangors and Colin did the other guys. Either way, they are gorgeous. It is a beautiful army. The photographs don't do them justice.
It looks fantastic. It's ridiculous.
And I brought my Templars, and I just brought like one of my lists. And it turns out in my 1,500 point list, and it turns out in my 1,500 point list, I paid for models I didn't have. Like, I was supposed to have a 20-man Crusader squad, and I didn't have enough scouts to fill it out. So I paid for 3 scouts I didn't actually take.
Very nice. Very nice.
That's why I lost my games on Friday. So I put my army down. I'm just thinking, man, first of all, we take the challenge coin because it's the challenge coin 2017, and that is the central objective. And it's the one with like the intel recovery one from chapter approved, where it's your character's score if they're still alive. And I was like, all right, let me just get ready to play and put on 1 medal, 2 medal, 3 medals. I'm like, you feeling intimidated yet? And so we start playing, and I'm just like, man, I'm going to blow all my command points on Deny the Witch because, the Templar thing that denies psychic powers in a 4-up. And he's like, yeah, you're going to run out real quick. And I didn't. I don't think I've ever seen Sony Dice roll less than a 3 for psychic tests, because he would roll like 4 psychic powers a turn, maybe like 6 even, and fail like 4 or 5 of them every time. Like, he would.
Holy shit.
I think I denied 1 psychic power all game. And he'd be like, oh, this smite goes off and it kills 1 neophyte. Let me use fucking warp time. Failed. Let me use, all his dust, whatever psych power. Every one just whiffed. And it was hilarious and very, I can see how it could also be very dejecting. But like, his dice were, I'd shoot my Land Raider. Like, turn 1, I wiped out all his Zangors right away. Like, all 20-something of them, just right away. And I would shoot like, my Hurricane Bolters or my Assault Cannon at his 1,000 Suns, and they'd do like 6 wounds or whatever. And he'd be like, all right, time to take 6 3-up saves, and he'd fail 4 of them. And it was like that sort of game. So it was just his guys just dying left and right, my guys just fucking walking through like nothing's going on and just taking the central objective, and it is an utter rout altogether. But we did play it out till the end. Like, he was like, no, I'm not conceding. I'm playing this till the bitter end, which we did. At the end, we got to have a duel with Dietrich Donnerschlag versus Ahriman, which was super cool. And of course, the guy with the Teeth of Terror chainsword beat the guy with the Bookhorn and the stick. So that was cool. And at the end of the game, he had just his Dreadnought alive, and I had like 2/3 of my army left, and it was fun. It was not a good game, but it was a very fun game. I'll blame that on my medals, which are just the energy from them being too powerful, but it was a very fun game.
Well, also your OP Black Templar.
My OP Black Templars, that foot-bound Scout Marine meta is really fucking killing it.
Hey, you had Scout bikes.
I did have
You
three
piece
scout
of
bikes.
shit. You had scout bikes.
I had 3 scout bikes, and me chasing the meta. I bought those in 2008. I painted them because I just have them. I bought them when they were new, and I just never painted them.
Holy shit.
I didn't paint them until last year, but honestly, those scout bikes did work all weekend, and for a nice 69 points, they're a fantastic unit. No, they are. They had a points drop, and it brought them down to 69 points. Yeah, so they are my
fucking Primaris Ancient, also 69 points.
Yeah, but the Primaris Ancient doesn't rock hard, ride free. He's just rock hard.
Yeah, he does rock hard though. Yeah.
So my second game was going to be against our listener Eric Beers, who we'd been hanging with earlier in the con, and he's super nice dude. Yeah. Super nice dude. But he was going to be my running partner for the weekend, but my knees were all shot because I mentioned before I fucked him up because it's what I do. And honestly, I don't think I'm going to run an Adepticon because my knees were shot enough just standing on all the concrete, irrespective of like that prior injury.
Irregardless.
But, that real word, irregardless. Not in regards to nothing. So we're going to get an open game, and all the tables were full.
Oh,
and
no.
I went over to one of the like organizers for the open gaming he was weirdly standoffish, and he brought out another table, but it was for somebody else. And he was like, no, we're at limit. I'm like, all right. So he and I walked around the convention hall, which is great because when you walk near the dealer area, even if you don't actually go in, you get pulled in because it's like a polar vortex. Like you will get pulled in and spit out the other side, a much poorer person.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we walked through there, and that was cool. He brought a bag of fruit. So again, I appreciate eating things that are not deep fried.
Yeah. Very nice of him. Very, very thoughtful.
Very thoughtful. Yeah. And but we walked around, and eventually we found a table where this guy Bobby Young, who has a beautiful Yellow Knights army. I don't remember what his house is, but it's a gorgeous army. He was playing a game, and he was like, yeah, I'm about to get a game with Carl. And then Carl's like, hey man, I can't get a game with you right now. Let's play a game tomorrow at 8 a.m. And he's like, sure. And I'm like, you fucking crazy people. Who keeps doing this? Who schedules games at 8 a.m.?
Yeah, and it's Carl's like lost 2 hours coming in too, because he's in California.
Yeah, it's insane. I don't understand it. Yeah, so I meet him. He's a super swell dude, great army, and we finally get the table down, and I get a text from Fakey. Fakey wanted to get a game in with me too. So basically my plan was to be like, okay, Carl, then James, then Fakey.
Carl, then Eric, then Fakey.
Carl, then Eric, then Fakey. And he texted me. He's like, hey, we're showing up. And he has friend Joshua with him. Want to do a doubles game? We're like, all right, cool. So we wait a minute, we set up our armies, and we do a doubles game. And we do the tried and true strategy of setting up a doubles game of everyone rolls a die, whoever has the same numbers on a team. Fakey and Eric are on a team. Fakey has his Death Guard, who are very cool, and there's some like very good paint jobs in there. And Eric has his Alpha Legion, which are crazy converted. Everybody in the army is crazy. Yeah. Like his Demon Prince is like a Gravis Captain with like giant bat wings and like a dragon head. It's an extremely cool army. Yeah. And Joshua had Harlequins, which I don't really think I'd seen much in person before. And I hope to not see them on the table anymore.
Wasn't he on your team?
Yes. Basically, they are like peak elf bullshit as far as I've gathered. I'm sure if I played them more, I'd get used to it.
Oh, yeah.
But basically, like, Eric and I just sat there looking at each other, kind of confused for like 45 minutes while the clowns kept rolling dice and re-rolling dice and modifying the re-rolls and unmodifying the re-rolls and making Death Guard go away. And I'm just like, what is going on? And Josh was just like, oh yeah, they're just their rules. This is just this relic. This is just this stratagem. And I'm like, you know what? Fine, do it. It's helping me out. I'm not going to complain. I'm just going to be confused. Him and Fakey had a game together. It basically had a game together while Eric and I had a game together.
Perfect.
Which is kind of what happens a lot with doubles games.
Yeah.
With just a little bit of overlap here and there. And it was an open war card where we forgot 2 of the cards, and we kept the one card that was, you total up the power level of everything dead at the end of the game. You double like vehicles, monsters, and characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was just killing each other, which honestly for this kind of pickup 2v2 game, just killing each other is totally fine.
Yeah.
It was fun. Like, Josh was a cool dude. Fakey's a great guy. Eric, also a great guy. I hadn't met him before. I think this was the first day I met him, but still great dude. And highlight of the game for me was when my scout biker fell away from Eric's knight, which is Knight Armiger, and I used the cluster mine stratagem, which no one ever expects this one. We're on 2 up, you cause D3 mortal wounds. And I did it, and I caused the 2 wounds remaining, and I killed his knight, and it was awesome.
That sounds fantastic.
That's the thing is, I'm just riding away from the explosion and be like, hell yeah.
Hell yeah, brother.
And then he gets smited by his Demon Prince or something.
Right. Yeah, naturally.
But yeah, so at the end of the game, we doubled everything, which means my Land Raider was worth like 36 points because it's a vehicle.
Yeah.
Yeah, Eric and Fakey ended up winning the game. It was incredibly silly. And I know I complained about how weird Harlequins were for the first chunk buzz because they just made stuff disappear. But then immediately after, they all died because they're all like T3.
Yeah.
So like I get it. It was just very mystifying to me as a first-time player experiencing it. If it was happening to me, I might not have had as much fun. It was cool. I'm glad I got to hang with Eric, Fakey, and Joshua, and it was a fun and silly game.
All right, and then Saturday night, Carl buys everybody pizza.
Yes, he does, from Lou Malnati's.
Yeah,
Not Luminati's, Lou space Malnati's.
Right.
Which is, well, I will say, I mean, I've had some Chicago pizza before from this really good local joint called Uno. I've got to tell you, this is incredible. Like, all right, you know, Dylan, I sent a picture of it to Dylan. He was like, "That's quiche. That looks like quiche." But this is pizza. It was fucking killer. It was so fucking. It has not left me yet.
Yeah, I'm glad that you got to experience that because that's like one of the. It's the top regional food stuff in the United States. Is Chicago deep dish pizza.
Yeah.
It is the best regional food stuff.
Yeah.
And if you disagree with me, fucking fight me. Okay, so we get to hang out with a lot of the independent characters' friends and our friends, and we get to meet Jody from the independent characters for the first time, and he's a really cool dude. Mm-hmm. And then Carl is like, "All right, let's go record." So I go get my stuff, my recording equipment that I brought, and we go and find a conference room in the Renaissance Schaumburg, and we sit down and record a segment for our show, which will be coming out next week when our regular show episode, I think 50 or 49, one of the two, comes out. And then we record two segments, one for the Independent Characters regular show, and then a nice long conversation for the Independent Characters Patreon exclusive show that is up right now that you can listen to if you want to do so. And it's a really good conversation. And I had a lot of fun meeting and hanging with Jody and spending time with our ham dad, Carl.
Yeah, I think by the time we did the one that is on their Patreon, I was a little tired because there's definitely a bit in there. I listened to it the other day where they like asked me a question. I'm like, huh? What? Because I was a little bit shot by that point just because, well, here's the thing. I wasn't partying this night, but like I was definitely in a carb coma from the pizza.
Oh, the pizza.
Like, normally I have two slices of pizza and I could go for another, but I should probably stop. But with Chicago style pizza, I'm like, if I go for another, I will actually die. And I mean that in a good way.
Yeah, so I had two slices and I was like, man, I could eat a third, but if I do, I'm going to die.
Two slices is roughly 10% of my body weight. Yeah. So yeah, but no, it was a great night recording. It was a great night just hanging out and talking with like Austin and Ian and Eric and like all our new and old friends.
Oh, Austin's a really cool guy. That
great
guy,
dude.
That guy, the first time he met me, he's wearing a fucking Badcast shirt. And that's like, if you want to be my friend, like when we meet, wear a Badcast shirt. That's how you do it. Yeah, so okay, let's move on to Sunday. Again, I have to wake up early for the Blood Bowl because they want to get out before 3 o'clock. So the games start at 8. So I'm out of the room by 7:30. 3 games again today. First game, I play a fellow named Jim. He's got Chaos Dwarves. Chaos Dwarves are always kind of a shit show because they have the terrible stupidness of dwarves mixed with some actually really fun ancillary characters like bull centaurs and minotaurs, and then a bunch of hobgoblins who have no skills and die easily.
Nice.
So it's a very good mix for a team. And we play to a draw.
Nice.
I pull out a last-second touchdown near the end of the game on a reverse throw with orcs. That's right, a reverse passing play to eventually win the game. Which was, and it was a very, very tight, very close game. And the fella I played, Jim, ended up winning the tournament. Which,
cool.
And I got him to a draw, so I felt pretty good about that.
But
and
you
then
didn't do so bad in this tournament either, though.
Well, we'll talk about that in just a moment. Then I played a fella's, I'm forgetting, I think his name might have been Garrett or something like that. I can't remember. But he had vampires. And vampires in Blood Bowl are interesting because they have this mechanic. Well, vampires themselves are very, very good like stats on their own. They're like just on their own, they're the best statted models in the game. But they have this mechanic called Bloodlust where if you roll a dice on your turn, if it's a 1, they have to go feed on a thrall. Vampire teams are made up of vampires and thralls. And so they have to go feed on a thrall. And they have to end their movement next to a thrall, and then you roll an injury dice. And again, 2 through 7 stunned, 8, 9 knocked out, 10 plus casualty. No armor roll. You just potentially lose. Well, you lose a thrall for at least a turn as they get stunned. But you could lose them for the rest of the game. So What that means is that vampires are like, they can do these amazing things on the pitch, but 1 out of 6 times they're going to fuck up and have to go bite one of their thralls. And they're not going to be able to do the thing that they need to do. And in this case, I won this game, but mainly because his last turn of the first half, he's got a vampire who's about to run in and score, but he rolls a 1 for his bloodlust, and he's out of rerolls. So he has to run backwards. He has to run backwards and bite a thrall. And it's his second to last turn of the first half. So he has to go back behind my defensive line where his nearest thrall is, the only one he can reach, and bite that thrall. And at that point, I just got the ball out and stopped him from scoring. And then I went down and scored just one. I think I won 1-0 in that game. And it was like, that's vampires though. Like, that's what fucking happens. You know, you live by the fang, you die by the fang. And then in my last game, I played a fellow as Goblins. I'm having trouble remembering this guy's name too. He was really, really nice. Might have been Chris. I don't know. He was really, really nice. He had a Goblin team, and I mean, Goblins is Goblins, dude. Like, I think I won this game 2-1. And it was crazy because he did more damage to me than I did to him. And orcs are known for how tough they are, and goblins are known for how not tough they are. So it was kind of an inversion of your general tropes here. But it was a really, really good game, really tight game. I ended up getting the win and had a ton of fun. And at the end of the competition, they're giving out awards or whatever. And I was like, I didn't win anything. I was like, and I definitely didn't win casualties. I definitely didn't win touchdowns, but I end up winning 3rd overall.
Congrats.
Like in points. So I got a medal for that. So you finished with 3 medals. I finished with 2 medals.
It's all good, man.
So I'm actually, I think, the most proud of that Blood Bowl medal because I did it myself, and it totally took me by surprise. I didn't think I was going to be in the running for anything. So it was a ton of fun. It was a really good competition, and I can't wait to do it again next year.
Very cool. So Sunday for me, I had no plans whatsoever. I ran to Carl on my way downstairs and watched some F1 racing with him.
Nice.
Then this YouTube channel, Anvil of War Gaming, came by and we're filling people for interviews or whatever. You guys come on in. And he and I just talked on camera for a while, which was mostly him talking in the camera, zooming in on him and me standing awkwardly to the side because people are there to see him, not me.
Yeah.
Paint Vagrant from the old Something Awful forums, a.k.a. Brian, which I met him in person. His models are, they're good.
Oh, no, he's an incredible painter. I was actually sad that I didn't get to meet him.
Yeah, but he walked by in the background and he just shouted, 40k Badcast in the background of the interview. And it makes me very happy that we have the shouting hooligan demographic down pat.
We got him.
But yeah, the Anvil of War Gaming guys, I met the guy behind it. I can't remember his name right now, but they seem like nice guys. They're from Canada. I wish them well. They're doing a YouTube channel. It's been around for a while. So just check them out if you want to. Then Carl and I just walked around the vendor hall, which involved a lot of him stopping to say hi to folks and me looking at stuff that I shouldn't buy. We went to Siege Studios. They have these artisanal dry brushes, and they're they're these tulip-shaped goat hair things that are soft. And he's showing me him doing the whole technique, and I'm just like, oh yeah, I've seen people do makeup. This is a makeup brush. I get it. Which is I don't mean that in a bad way. I just think it's kind of cool they're utilizing these other sorts of techniques for painting.
Yeah.
Then you and I had lunch, which honestly I found a nice reprieve where we're just gonna hang out. We're just gonna be kind of quiet and just gonna be in a kind of quiet bar and just have some good sandwiches and just chill out for an hour. And then you went off for more Blood Bowl, and I just hung out with Jody from the ICs and Craig, and we just shot the shit for a few hours, and it was great. We were just oh, where are you from? Where you been? Just talking about our lives, our experiences, things that aren't necessarily gaming related for 2 hours at the bar, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
And that was the rest of my day until the after party.
Yeah, the Sunday night went to the after party where we got to hang out with some friends, sing some songs. I completely lost my voice. And
my voice is still shot.
Yeah, and it was just a great chill hang. I got to hand off the Estratus campaign book to Pete Foley, and he left with it, and he read through it also. So I'm very excited about that. Hope he enjoys it. And got to hang out with Jason Lippert, who is one of the Adepticon guys, and sing songs. And Mike Brandt was there, and it was just a great time for hanging out and chilling with our buds.
What's the thing? I mean, somehow it was a party where not one but 2 white guys got on guitars, and the party stayed cool.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird how that can happen sometimes.
But when everyone's drinking, everyone knows all the words to every song. It's true.
We were looking them up on our phones too.
Yes, we were. But also,
no, it was a great time.
It was a very good time.
That's honestly the reason I stay till Monday on these things.
Mm-hmm.
Is just so you can go and socialize at the end when all the gaming's done and everybody's just hanging out.
Yeah.
So
So we got Monday. Yeah. So
Monday you woke up. You went to the airport.
I woke up 4 hours of sleep. I was hungover as hell. I got motion sick again on the plane, but didn't puke. Came real close, but didn't puke. And I sat next to a guy named Jose, whose son plays D&D, and his mind was like blown that I went to a whole con for this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I pulled out like the Space Marine Codex from my personal item bag, and he's like, oh my god, this stuff's so cool. He's like, oh, my son's gonna love this stuff. We'll go there, and he gets his son's attention, and I just turn this towards his son's like a teenager, and like the kid is like mouth agape when he sees that I'm carrying this book on me.
Yeah, agape. It's pronounced agape.
Agape. You know, like the syrup. Okay. But yeah, I got home. I slept for 12 hours, and I might go home Sunday next time. I'll be honest. Because on Monday I was kind of like, I wish I was already home. On Sunday I was like, kind of wish I was, with my cats and Anne and all that stuff. But you know what? We'll cross their bridge when we come to that.
So before we do our final thoughts, let's talk about stuff we purchased at Adepticon. I didn't get that much this year. I just got the Con Lieutenant, some Orlok heads, and the new Orlok head kit, and then Bad Zone Delta 7.
The card tiles.
Yeah, for Necromunda. And that's all I got.
Yeah. I was going to get a Sump Croc, but they were out, or they didn't have any. I wanted like the Sump Croc and the Gilder Bounty Hunter, but they didn't have either of them. And yeah, I went through the line. I walked out with like the objective markers, the Warhammer Community objective markers, which are really nice. Like nice, like hefty brass coins that have, the 1 through 6 number and the symbol on the other side. I got that and the Lieutenant. That was it for me. Like I walked out with like this, a rather big bill and a lot of stuff. And I'm like, oh, sweet. And I empty out in the bed. I'm like, oh, this is all for Dylan. None of this is for me. I looked around to see if there's anything else to buy. Like, on the last, because on the last day, it's when everyone's like, we don't want to ship our shit back home. So 40% off everything or whatever. And there was nothing left. Like if I wanted to, I could get like a random kit here and there. And it just was nothing I was looking for was available. So,
Yeah. So let's talk about some takeaways. Adepticon's amazing. And
yeah,
I think
absolutely.
it's completely different from our experience with Nova, where Adepticon is very, very social because you're doing a bunch of one-day events and you're meeting a ton of people and you're going from group to group and you're hanging out and you're unlike Nova where you're with the same core people pretty much the entire con. Yeah, this Adepticon was fantastic. I met so many new people that I consider friends now. And I got to strengthen my friendships with people that, I only get to see at Adepticon. And the people I get to see here at home, I got to hang out with a little bit, like Mike and Tony. And it was just an amazingly good, fun time. And there's so many wonderful people we have in our hobby, so many wonderful listeners, so many wonderful opponents and players. And it's just such a great thing to be in right now. And I'm so happy we get to do it. And I can't wait to do it again next year.
I mean, I can't miss this again. I can't. Like, I missed it when we went in 2017, I was like, oh, that was fun. I got to hang out with Dan for a few days, got to, hang out with Carl, got to hang out with some people and got to meet some new people. And it was cool. And then I'm like, but compared to Nova, if I'm going to go one, I'm going to go to Nova. Because Nova is like, you're coming home to your friends, you're coming home to your family. Like, these are the people you like. This is almost like a core group. Yeah. For me, Nova is its own core group. For you, they are your local folks, but for me, they are one of the core ham groups I have. And Adepticon kind of seemed like, oh, you run to a bunch of people and it's some games with some people, whatever, that's fine. You'll get to hang out with some folks here and there. But this year, it was like, yeah, there is that, but there also is that separate, like, you've got people we already know who I don't get to see very often, who are, some of our Nova crew, some of our like Goon crew, some of our like Badcast listeners, some of our IC's friends. Like, you've got all these disparate groups coming together in one place that don't necessarily go to Nova every year.
Right.
That I don't get to see otherwise. Plus meeting new people, plus gaming with new people, plus just getting a lot of games in. And I found this to be like exponentially better than Adepticon was in 2017. And almost nothing on the part of the con itself was responsible for that. That was purely because of my own social situation.
The people, yeah. Well, I mean, we've had this show for a while now, and we have friends. We have real good friends that we've made through this hobby, and Adepticon's in the center of the country and is the biggest con for any of this stuff in America, at least. So, I mean, it's the place to go to hang out and spend time with the people that we love and respect and enjoy.
Well,
and
it's so hugely validating and like heartening to see these names and people I see post, whether in Facebook groups or in Discord channels or on Very Much Alive, Very Much Active, Very Much Still Worth Your Time comedy forums from 1999. But like seeing these people in real life, like the first time you see them, you're like, oh, cool, it's this guy. All right, his avatar is like the spinning, puking space marine. Okay, whatever. And now you're like, oh, I've seen this person a few times. This isn't just like an acquaintance who I've met online. This is a friend. And this is a person who I don't normally get to see very often. And it's incredible that I get to see them here and share this experience with them. And the fact that we got to record some stuff while there was also super cool.
Yeah.
And definitely kind of built that in there.
Well, all the equipment that I brought, Carl went and bought.
He bought all of it.
He bought all of it to use for his setup at home because I'm a fucking audio professional, so I bring nice things to record on because I can't help myself, even though they're heavy. And he went and he bought all the stuff that I brought with me because he was looking for new stuff for the Astronomicon at home. So, and none of it was like very expensive either. So it was like, he just sent me a picture the other day of these microphones stacked up, and he's like, "Oh, the board's on order. It's coming in next week." And I'm like, "Fuck yeah, dude, get after it." But that's the thing, man. Like it's special when you're an adult. It's hard to have friends. Like it's hard to. You get off work and you get home, and there's a lot of times, man, I'm just like, fuck this, dude. I want to paint miniatures or watch baseball or fucking just hang out with my cats and Danielle. And like, I don't want to fucking deal with other people. I don't want to go drink or fucking pay money for food or all that shit. Like, and so when you come to a place like this where you've got all of this shared interest, and then when people are cool and people make an effort to hang out with you and you make an effort to hang out with them and you can come together, like it's so fantastic and fun. And there's so many of us and we can all get together in like one big ass fucking stinky room and roll dice for a while. And it's like, it's so cool.
Cause like the first time I came to Adepticon, it was like, oh, I want to play a bunch of games. And of course I still want to play a bunch of games. Like that's great. That's why we're here. But more so than usual, I want to go back just so I can see these people again.
Yeah.
Just so I can spend more time with these folks who, like, if we all, live near each other, we'd hang out all the fucking time.
Yeah.
Like, because I know you and I, if we lived, in the same zip code, we'd be insufferable. We'd never stop hanging out. It'd be fantastic. It'd be awful.
I would hope that our fiancés would be friends because they'd be around each other all the fucking time.
Yeah. And like things like this facilitate that sort of chill hang. And, in a way that, Nova does too. But like I said earlier, it's a different vibe. It's
a completely different vibe. And I think it's the other side of the coin when it comes to the social aspect of this hobby, where Nova is much more of a return to form. Mm-hmm. And Adepticon is like where we can spread out and like embrace as many people as possible.
Physically, usually.
All right, man. Well, this has been a wonderful experience recapping our fun times at Adepticon. I can't wait until next year. Like the FOMO is way too high at this point for Adepticon.
Yeah.
Like I can't.
Last year was miserable.
I can't.
For me.
And like we've said, we've said privately, but like Adepticon is the tough one to sell.
Yeah.
With our partners because it's like for me and Nova, it's fine because Danielle will fucking volunteer at Nova. She's there half the time anyways.
Yeah, she's local anyway, so you can still hang out and get dinner with her if you want to like spend some time with her or whatever.
Right, but Adepticon is completely different, and it takes relationship capital to go. But at this point, it's just so important.
Like, it's so important to who I am and what I do and what I love to do and my social circles. And I mean, if I went without you, I would still have fun, but with a big asterisk. Like,
right. No, that was last year for me.
The same experience.
That was last year for me. It was fun, but like it wasn't as fun as it could have been. And for whatever dumb reason, you and I feel like we're more than the sum of our parts. And it's really special that you got to be there this time around. And I think we're going to be hanging out at the beginning of May for Synchro to Necro, so it's not like we won't see each other until Nova. But it's and then I guess you're also going to come to my wedding. So
I'm also going to be in your wedding, actually.
Yeah. So but it was great to hang out with you, man, and I can't wait to do it again.
I mean, I can wait because it's a year out. My bank account's going to take a while to recover.
Yeah.
But I am extremely looking forward to it. Like, the reason I started doing the Patreon is basically to fund trips like this and let us have these experiences and turn this podcast into something really great for us, as well as, for our listeners who want to listen to this sort of stuff. So.
Yeah. And one thing, listeners, we have been talking with Carl of the Independent Characters, the only Carl we ever mentioned. We've been talking about him about actually getting something together at Adepticon next year, like some sort of listener meetup or something that we can just as a networking event for our listeners, for other hams, for us, and nothing is set in stone. It's very preliminary, but we're looking to have a little more of a presence there next year. So stay tuned for that, and we will be back next week with a regular show with all the bells and whistles and name jokes, and we make the call and
bad fan
fiction next week. And we're also going to have the interview we did with Carl in that show. So that'll be a lot of fun to listen to. Carl actually uses bad language in that, and it talks about which Primarch he wants to fuck.
So if for nothing else, come for that.
Yeah. All right, Campbell. Thank you so much again for coming together with me at Adepticon. Listeners, thanks for listening. Shirts, Patreon, fucking Twitter, all that bullshit, email. Get at us. You know how to do it. You know the deal by now. And I guess we'll see you in the next cartoon.